Hello, my name is Tom Burniece. I'm a volunteer at the Computer History Museum, and I'm here today with Jugi Tandon, one of the more interesting stories I think you're going to hear about the storage world. And first of all, I just want to ask Jugi, your full name is actually Sirjang Lai Tandon. When and where did you become known as Jugi, and why?
Tom, this is interesting. You know, my name is Sirjang Lai Tandon. Okay, first, how my name came about. You know, I was born in 1941, and there was a war, World War, during the World War. So my grandfather named me World War, child. Jung in Indian means war. So Sirjang, the guy who leads the war. So, Tom, I'm the only one who have this name. I don't know anybody else who has this. So I don't know if it's good or bad.
But it literally means war.
Huh?
It means war.
So, but then, my parents called me Jungi. They took the Jung and make, And when I came here in 1960, some of my professors started calling me Jugi because that was probably a little bit easier for them to announce. I adopted that name from that time because it was easier. So from 1962, that's the way to do it. A lot of people don't even know. Sometimes I forget my name is Sirjang.
All right, well, tell us about your family background, where you were born, grew up, where you went to school, and so forth.
I was born in a small town. Small means 40, 50,000 people. It was a pretty primitive town. We didn't have electricity even when until I was in high school. So we studied in kerosene lamps and all this thing.
And what part of India was that?
That was North India, about 200 miles from Delhi in Punjab.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean we were poor. My father was a very prominent lawyer, and we had plenty. To have a very good life. We were 8 brothers and sisters, and we lived in a kind of a farm. Even though he was a lawyer, and we had plenty of food, everything homegrown, everything organic. So it was good life. It was good life. No complaints. And I went to high school over there. The high school, which was started with a donation from my grandfather. So my whole family has believed in education a lot. After I finished high school, I went to college just to do a 2-year college, which is a physics and science major. And after that, I left India, came to this country. So from small town to all the way to America.
And I understand you had four brothers.
Let me interrupt just for a second. I'm having just step up for a second. I'm going to just bring your chair a little closer to the camera.
Okay.
So that he's not looking so far off.
Okay. Let's see. I'm going to be right over my shoulder blade, I guess, right? Yeah. All right. So
you can just pick up where you were going.
All right.
Okay. Thanks.
You ready?
Yeah. It's perfect.
I understand you got 4 brothers, and 3 of them have been involved with you in most of your business, and one of them's in the room. It's Jay. Talk about your brothers for just a minute.
Well, we are 8 in the family actually. My 4 sisters and 4 brothers, and when I came to this country, I came with my older brother. We both came together, and we both worked at IBM together.
And when was that? When did you come here?
That was we came here in 1960.
60, okay.
Okay, and we worked in IBM in 65. Okay.
51.
65, 66 time frame, and so we were all in the technical field, and that's where we ended up doing it. When we go later on in the Tandon history, I'll tell you how I got these people involved with me.
Well, when and how did you get interested in technology? Early on, and who influenced you to do
actually, in our family, even my both grandfathers were engineers. So we are a family of either engineers or lawyers. I mean, we as kids didn't have any choice. You can become an engineer or can become a doctor.
All right.
You know, this is the way. This is the way it was. This is my. One of my uncle was, you know, studied in England. He was an engineer. One was a doctor, and my father is the only one who became a lawyer. So we really didn't have any choice. But you know, my parents were, of course, every parent has influence on their kids, but my dad taught us really two values which were very valuable. One thing is the closeness of the family, and number two, education. 8 of us, we didn't have choice. You know, I mean, minimum requirement was a bachelor degree, but mostly master's degree. I mean, all 8 of us. You know, so we ended up okay from that point of view.
So did you end up with a master's degree?
2 of them.
2 of them, and
Yeah.
when was that and where?
Yeah, I got MBA from University of Santa Clara,
Okay,
and I got Master's in Engineering from Kansas State University.
all right. And when was that?
65.
65, all
Yeah.
right, okay. So when and how did you end up with IBM then?
Well, let me give you my whole professional story coming to the IBM, okay? I graduated, I did my undergraduate and I graduated in 1962. I was in Washington, D.C. and I became a heating air conditioning engineer in 1962, which is quite different from the technology you're talking about, you know, because in Washington, D.C., the only kind of firms were the consulting firms, you know, engineering consulting firms. And then what I wanted to do, I wanted to take 1 year off, you know, before I do my master's, you know. So I took the year off. I came and lived here in Berkeley, you know, and I was trying to go to school in Berkeley, but in 1962, Berkeley was a great school, but also it was a great party town. So I could study because I got too much sucked into the party. So I applied. I got an assistantship in Kansas State University. So I went there. I got my master's at Kansas State in mechanical engineering, and I came back to California. You know, it's interesting. Most of the mechanical engineers go and look for a job in the automobile industry or you know, in aerospace or making aeroplanes or something like this. Nobody thought about going into the computers if you're a mechanical engineers. You know, that's one of the things always are lacking, in my opinion, in the computer industry. Not enough good mechanical engineering getting attracted over there, you know. And so I was in the Los Angeles area. I applied for a job in Beckman Instruments. I don't know, you remember Beckman Instruments. And they were making these, you know, those pots, you know, the potentiometers, which was very interesting. It was intriguing because it has a lot of material knowledge you have to have, you know, a lot of moving mechanical parts and very small components. And with that experience, you know, I wanted to move to the Bay Area. This was in Orange County. IBM had just ramping up the 2314 production, and I ended up having an interview. And my experience in Beckman came in extremely handy because it was right the kind of people they needed to manufacture, you know, those magnetic heads. I mean, the 2314 head, which was a 10 megabyte drive, which was bigger than a refrigerator or a washing machine.
Right.
And the controller was another one, which is another monster, and 100 tracks per inch. And the heads were bonded with epoxy. So we had a lot of challenges. And I remember working in IBM with almost, we'll start 100 heads. We'll be lucky if we got, you know, 5 done at the end of the line. It was very challenging. So I worked at IBM for almost 2 years. you know, and mostly on heads, some engineering, but mostly manufacturing, process development. It was a lot of fun, you know.
So can you remember some of the people that you worked with in
Well,
those days?
you know,
and who influenced you?
I met Mike Warner.
So Warner was there already?
Warner was there.
Okay.
He was working on the next generation, which we called Winchester.
Right.
Okay, and another guy was Mike Hall, who was in charge of that thing. I got to know him well, but you know, I was a very junior engineer. But it was very good experience. You know, I really learned the process of building heads. You know, because in my opinion, the designing head is the easiest thing. Manufacturing is the hardest part.
Oh,
you
absolutely.
know, okay. So after IBM, my plan was always to, you know, get education in this country and get some working experience and go back to India.
That was your long-term plan?
That was my
Okay.
My plan, and my brother's plan the same way. And my brother was working in IBM at the same time.
So did you just stay at IBM for 2 years?
Yeah, I was.
And that's when you went to Memorex?
Yeah, that's when I'm.
So how did you end up going to Memorex then?
Yeah, see what happened. Then in 1967, I packed up my bag and everything. I went to India, moved permanently to India.
Oh, you actually moved?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, but I had a green card. Okay. So my brother and we both moved to India, and IBM had an operation in Bombay. At that time, it was called Bombay. Now it's called Mumbai, and we both applied for a job there, and we got jobs. My brother decided to stay there and work in IBM in India. I didn't find the technical challenge, which I got used to working, you know, with IBM. So I decided to come back. So I was about 9 months in India when I, you know, didn't work. Okay, and so when I came back, I got married in the meantime. Okay,
Well, there's a life change.
So I ended up here. All the money I had to spend. There was no exchange available. You know, my parents have money. They could not convert their rupees into dollars because, you know, Indian currency was a closed currency, and you could not just go get dollars. India was a very shortage of dollars. So I landed in San Jose, or first Los Angeles and here, with the $58 in my pocket and with a young wife. No job. So I ended up staying with a friend of mine. I said, you know, borrow some money for the groceries, and I stayed there for a few days. I called up IBM. You know, they liked me at IBM. You know, I was a pretty good engineer. In fact, I got a letter from at that time was Watson Jr. for the, you know, they remember they used to have those awards. I don't know what they called it. You know, for I did something very interesting in the
Like Employee of the Month, or
or something
kind of a thing like that.
Anyway, they were very happy with my work because I did a lot in the processing. You know, processing manufacturing process the heads. So I called them. They said, since you resigned and left, our procedure is that it will take us, you know, 2 to 3 weeks to get the clearance to hire you back. We want to hire you back, but it will take us 2 to 3 weeks. I said, what am I going to eat for 2 to 3 weeks? You know. And so what I did, I started looking at some of the people who used to work for me, and I traced down a guy named called Ray Bell.
Okay.
He used to be my boss at IBM, you know, on the manufacturing side, and I found out through some friends that he's gone to a new company called Memorex, and Memorex is a company who's make tapes and everything, but they want to get in the disk drive business. Right. And that was Larry Wilson and all those guys. They were just starting the group to do, get into the drives, So when I called Ray and I said, Ray, I'm looking for a job. He said, I've been looking for you. I said, that sounds good to me. So after 3 days, I was back in this country. Luckily, I found a job and got myself established.
That's amazing. $58 in your pocket, 3 days, and a new wife, and 3 days, and you got a job.
Well,
that's good.
The times were that way, weren't they? I think the jobs were not a problem in those days, I mean, it was so easy. If you're qualified, well, it's not even difficult today.
Right.
If you're qualified, So anyway, I got started in Memorex.
So what year was it you started Memorex?
68.
68, okay. And who are some of the more interesting people you met at Memorex, and what can you tell me about some of the stories there?
Well, Memorex was a lot of fun. Right after I joined, we did our 2314 equivalent, right, which we called, I think, 660. Okay, yep. And the main thing which we did different from IBM, we copied ahead. We have our own media, which was good. Because Memorex was really known for the media.
Yes, they were.
And we on the first 660 product, we used a voice coil actuator.
Was that the first voice coil in the industry, or just the first one by Memorex?
I don't know. My understanding was it was about the same time as Control Data did it, and some of the other companies did.
Yeah, Control Data didn't get their voice coil into the market until like 1970. They were working on it.
Yeah, so no, we didn't do any product
right,
without voice coil.
Okay.
That was a Roy Applequist
baby. All right.
So we did that 660, which looking at the Memorex stock those days, I guess they were doing very well with that. Yeah. Okay, and then they decided to really expand in that business in a big way. That's when they went and got Alan Shugart, Rusty Nagakura, and the whole IBM team came to Memorex. I don't know you remember that.
Oh yeah, no, I do.
Okay, I was there before that. Okay, so after that we developed the 670, which was the difference was it was a little more capacity, but the head technology was different. We started using glass bonding heads rather than epoxy heads. Which we never did Winchester, but it was still ramp loading. And at that time, I was kind of getting a little restless, because I'm doing the same thing over and over, and it's all now the new IBM Shugart people kind of controlling the whole things and all this thing. The idea of the floppy was kind of floating around. Okay, as you know, IBM had a floppy drive. This was before anybody did.
Right.
But that was
Use it for program load, basically.
That was a read-only device. Right. So I went to whether it was Alan Shugart or whosoever my manager guy was. They said, "Hey, there's a desire to be in the floppy business, but let's do a read and write floppy drive." Okay, there were very few floppy drives around at that time, and they said, "You think it can be done?" I said, "Listen, I know I can get the head done. I'll get the head done. I'll get the media done. The rest shouldn't be that difficult." So I started working with the media group, that hey, listen, we need to coat this 3 millimeter mylar, you know, good on one side at least, but you know, because we didn't have double sided. And I used to go on the third shift, because the first and second shift they were running the media. They say, hey, this is just a toy, it's just playing around. And I was definitely treated like a stepchild in the whole corporation, because I'm working on a drive which will sell for maybe $800. You know, who wants that? But I somehow fell in love with that thing. And I remember I used to pick up, I had an old Chevrolet, I used to pick up these big rolls of magnetic tape which we ran overnight and bring it in the lab. And I had a little fixture made with the X-Acto knife, you know, cut a round disc in it, put it into cardboards. And then I was able to crack the code of head reading and writing, you know, because there was always a worry about a lot of crosstalk, you know, reading. I solved that problem.
So and tell me how you solved that problem.
Huh?
How did you solve the crosstalk problem?
It was just some little bit of a shielding in the between. It wasn't a big deal. You know, people were more scared than it was worth it. You know, and we had to build a race core in it. You know, so we were okay.
So was that almost like a one-man project at that point? You were
in Memorex. It was
it, and you were doing it.
It was one-man project.
Okay, and you were buying a fairly wide ribbon of tape. And in your cutting out a
big tape, which was almost 4 feet wide.
Right.
Web.
And you're cutting out 8-inch.
I was cutting 8-inch thing with a little fixture.
Floppy media.
With an X-Acto knife and a little fixture, okay. Because nobody will give me any money. Okay.
And at that point, it was coated only on one side.
No, it was coated on both sides. Our idea was that if one side doesn't work, maybe the other one would work. Right, you know, because we were coating on both sides. You know. And a lot of interesting things came out of that, you know. And by the way, we'll get back into later on, one of the reasons that Tandon was so successful, Tandon Magnetic, because the knowledge I gained in the media side, you know, because, you know, Floppy was a very challenging thing. People don't realize that, okay. There are two challenges compared to your hard drive, okay. Number one, media interchangeability.
Yep.
Okay. Any kind of a media, any place in the world has to work in any drive. You don't have that requirement in hard drives.
Well, not anymore. At that point, you also rotated hard disks between drives, but
yeah, but then you had the whole.
But it was an aluminum platter. Fairly thick, about 1/8 of an inch with. On both sides.
No, but I'm saying that removable media at that kind of a cost. I mean, we used to have big data packs, you know, people used to carry around. I understand. But the reason we went to Winchester so that we don't have to do that.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So this is going back to that thing. So that is a big challenge. Okay. And the second challenge was, it's a contact recording.
Right.
Okay. And contact recording
You're essentially wearing media.
Or the head.
Right.
You would wear one of those two things. You know.
Right.
So it's funny. So I mean, I think I spent many nights, you know, working on that problem. Very fortunate for me that I could get media done in house. I was doing the heads myself. Okay, a lot of things we learned. You know, that you cannot diamond polish the head because the diamond will be sticking out. It'll eat not only the coating, it'll eat the mylar even. You know, and. So once I got the thing working, that, you know, we have a good life on the media, head is working fine. They put a team together to do the drive. You know, we did the drive.
How long did all that take to the point where you had a team now working with you to put a real drive together? From the time you started?
There's probably 18 months or so.
So a year and a half, you're all by yourself, basically.
No, they were doing it, but they didn't know whether they are going to do it read only or read or write only.
All right.
Okay? Right. And also, I was in charge of the media too.
Right.
So the rest of the team was just doing a drive. Okay? So we got the drive done, and once the media is working, then I got some priority in the media factory, because media was running it only when they're changing the shift or something like this, they'll run a web for me, you know. And they said, okay, now we are going to do it. Okay, we were throwing in the mixture in this thing and this mill. We were just doing it because we didn't know it's serious or not, but then the corporate became serious. It's a serious project. It looks like there is a demand for the floppy drive. It's looking pretty good, you know. And they said, now we are going to do it properly.
And when was that time frame?
This was, let's see, 73 I left, 72.
So what, 1972?
Yeah, 71, 72.
You really, our Memorex really got committed to a
We
floppy drive.
were the first one to do a read and write floppy drive.
Okay.
Okay, and I did the head. Okay, and
It sounded like you also had a lot to do with the media. But you
lot to do with
the media, right?
So here's the interesting story. They said, okay, now we are going to professionally do it and do this. I said, okay, guys, give me a run. So they went and ran media for me. I bring back in the lab, made few discs. We had and started testing. We used to test for the wear of the media or the head. 15 minutes later, you can see through it. It's mylar. I said, when you were doing a kind of a kludgy operation, the media worked fine. Guys, what happened to you? now it's you can see through the media running 15 minutes. Anyway, very interesting.
Was that
thing.
just an adhesion problem? They just had a change of
I'm telling you what was happening. So I went back. I said, okay, guys, I'm going to go through step by step. What you changed? Nothing changed. Nothing changed. I said, listen, I know chemical engineers and all this, you guys are geniuses. I agree, the oxide and everything is the same. But something is different because, you know, I never change two variables at a time. I think every engineer should understand that. If you could, they change two variables, you don't know where the problem coming. Right. You know, if there are 10 different variables, I'll change one at a time, take my time. Anyway, to make the story short, what did I find out? The milling process, they were using ceramic balls for milling. They changed to stainless steel balls.
Oh, all right, all right.
And you know something?
And they changed that for all their processes?
No,
just for
no,
you?
no. This is for my process, okay? Or other process too, because, you know, I don't know what was happening on the tape side, but you know what that was doing? There were enough debris coming out of the ceramic balls to give the bonding effect to the media.
So the debris from the ceramic was actually part of the formula or the catalyst or whatever
Yeah.
to get it to bond.
Right.
And
So
that was a chemical reaction, basically?
No.
Or
It's just
the
mechanical.
material to stick it together?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just, so we start adding ceramic. Solve the problem. But anyway.
So you had the very first read-write floppy. Was that still a single site at that point?
Single sided, yes.
And in the meantime, had Al Shugart formed
Okay.
Shugart Associates?
I'm just coming.
or
I'm
did
just.
that happen
I'm just
later?
coming to that. Okay.
Okay.
Memorex was getting in pretty bad shape. I think in 72, 73, I think all the disk drive companies were kind of getting a little shaky.
Right.
You know, Control Data was
A lot of competition.
Teledyne. Which was that other? Who was that company? There was a dirty dozen people left. You know, the
ISS.
ISS. So things were getting a little shaky, and at that time, a lot of the many people start demanding floppy drives. You know,
Yeah.
that's where it happened. Okay, and that's when Alan Shugart took Don Massaro and the whole team and formed Shugart Associates.
Right.
So there was a whole team who were working on the 670 None of those guys were working on floppy drive.
Did they ask you to go?
No, no.
Now that's interesting. So you had developed a floppy.
Well, actually, he may have asked me, but I had shown no interest.
Okay.
Because I know more than all these guys put together, But they are. You see, there was a sort of a arrogance. The people who came from IBM, who was Al Shugard's clan. Okay. Now these guys put me onto the floppy drive because they thought it's not going anyplace. Let's, do that. We want all our top-notch IBMers work on the 670. It so happened 670 that technology didn't go that far on the big drives, and floppy became the main thing. And these guys, they say, oh, we are so smart, like Don Massaro and all those guys. They left and do this thing. And I said, hey, I'm going to do my own. But I didn't, I said, I didn't have any money at that time. I had Memorex gave me some stock, which I I bought it for $1, rode $230 and rode back to $1.
1 to 230 back to 1?
Something like that.
Wow.
I mean, I don't know. So I didn't have any money, but I want to start my own business. So, somehow, Stu Mavan, who was running
Remember Stu?
Pertec at that time, okay, he found about me, okay. So he called me. He came to I was in San Jose at that time. So he came to San Jose and he said, Jugi, I want you to put a team together for me to build floppy drives.
At Pertec.
At Pertec. And we'll give you stock. I said, I'll take cash. I mean, so I made a deal with them. In those days, Tom, you got to understand that was a lot of money. If I get them successfully into the floppy drive, entire drive, okay, I'll get a bonus for $120,000.
All right.
Okay.
All right. So you got a deal on that. All right.
To me, that was a lot of money. Okay, in those days. So what happened? I talked to the guy who was running the engineering over here, drive thing, and a couple of my other people, because we were a small. By the way, Shugard did not take anybody from the floppy group.
At Memorex.
At Memorex, that was my group.
Okay.
I mean, I never. By the way,
nobody got from the floppy one over there.
One thing, I never became a manager in any company because I know the minute I become a manager, I'll quit technology.
Yeah, right.
So anyway, the guy who was running the program, I was doing the heads and the media. Howard. What was his name?
Howard was his first name?
Howard.
Well, we'll get it later.
Okay.
We'll get it later.
Okay.
Just we can fill it in later.
Anyway, I asked Howard, and there was another electrical engineer, Bob Made. I said, hey, you guys want to move to, Los Angeles, and I get you guys bonuses, 50,000 here, 100,000 here. And so we made the deal with Pertec that no stock, we want bonus. If some people want to move there, they will move. Some people don't want to move, they won't move. Okay.
And what year was that?
That was in 1973.
73. Okay.
Okay.
And so at that time, was Pertec focused also on hard drives, or going to be strictly on floppy disks?
No. Pertec was a hard drive company.
So already was a hard drive.
Yeah, they were a hard drive company. They wanted to get in the floppy. So I said, give us a separate building. I'll bring my team. Nobody from the Pertec has to interfere or do this thing. We are going to deliver the product to you. This is the bonuses we are going to get. Okay?
Okay. Now, in the meantime, just to kind of get those two stories straight, Al and this group had left to go to form Sugar Associates, and was that to do a hard drive or both?
No. Sugar Associated only went to do floppy drives.
So he went to do floppies only,
Yes.
even though he didn't take anybody from the floppy team.
No. Even today, I don't understand why.
Well, he might have felt that he was.
Well, you know, here's the
He
thing.
had some kind of agreement he couldn't, but bottom line, they didn't take any floppy people to create a floppy company.
No,
Took all the hardware guys.
let me tell you something, okay?
Okay.
It's all perception. What do you think, what engineer is good for what, okay? Definitely when the new people came into the company, when Sugar brought his team, he was very proud of his team.
Sure.
Okay? We were the one who were not came with him in the team. He accepted us kind of a team, but not really. Okay? So the reason one thing I was interested in the floppy, so I volunteered myself to go on this, but they really were looking for the people they don't want in the main glamorous program. Okay? But Al's thinking was that these are the best engineers I have. Herb Thompson was their head engineer, who I worked with him. I used to tease him. I said, Herb, you're the second best head engineer in the world.
And who was the best?
We used to kind of tease each other that way. So anyway, that was the reason he said, I'm going to take the best engineers. What is there in floppy drive? If we do Winchester drives, or no, the hard drives, this should be.
So his attitude is, if you got the best engineers, you can do anything you want. You don't have to get guys that have done it before. You just get the guys who are the best, and they'll do it.
Absolutely. Okay. And they did okay. They did okay.
Sure.
Okay. And they did okay. So two things happened. Okay. Now, so they were doing it. I was at Pertec. We are competing. Okay.
And of course, Memorex already had some floppies because you.
But Memorex couldn't get out of their own way. In fact, my brother Jay, he was running that program over there.
Okay.
Yeah.
After you left.
After I left.
Okay.
Okay. So, but they weren't serious about it. The biggest problem we had, Tom, these big companies cannot think small. They don't think that small is very big.
Right.
I mean, this is you look at the whole history of the computers, right? Today everything is PC. All the big companies ignored PC. There is so much technology in IBM, control data, Memorex. They ignored the small drives.
Right.
Every time new people had to come, start thinking different way. Culturally, they could not shift gears. It's the same technology, right? But they could not shift gears. And this was my frustration, okay, at Memorex, okay? And but anyway, when those Sugar people left and all this, Memorex was shaky ground, so I went to Pertec. I did the project. So Pertec was culturally a little bit more suitable, because we were given the independence, we were, a separate group and all this thing. And but then, really, the big thing happened. The head technology, IBM was doing floppy at that same time. IBM came out with we used to make metal heads.
Right.
Then IBM came out with a ferrite head. Before they thought the ferrite will wear out, okay, but at that time the ferrite quality has become so good that you could do a contact recording with the ferrite head, because a lot of the technology was developed for the tapes, So I was talking to Pertec, and he said, I said, my contract is up. I made my bonus and all this thing. It's not a contract, but for me to how much you are committed to this program, it doesn't look like that you are committed as heavy. They still want to romance the big drives. And I said, there was a bunch of floppy companies mushroomed up at that time. This is all 8-inch floppy.
This is like the 74, 75 time frame, something like that?
That's 74, yeah, okay. 74, 75 time frame, yeah.
So now IBM's going in the game, Sugar's in the game, Memorex could have been in the game, but kind of fell aside, and Pertec is not really serious about getting in the game?
They were fooling around with it. The whole company collapsed.
Oh, the company completely
Yeah,
all right.
yeah. It was not that they tried very hard on the floppy, but there were a bunch of floppy drives came around. Okay. Now, to name a few, which you probably BASF, German company.
Right. Yep. BASF. Right.
Siemens.
Right.
They were in it. There was a company called Remax.
Yep.
Calcom in Southern California.
Right.
So they were maybe MPI.
Right. Well, MPI got it, absolutely. Not
So
sure
all
quite
these
that early, but they definitely got on the floppies.
Floppy.
Right.
I'm talking about the floppy. So 8-inch floppy becoming very fashionable, you know. And Shugart dominated the market, you know, because they were there earlier, and thanks to Herb Thompson, okay, because he did the heads, you know. Other people didn't have a head source.
Was he the top head guy at Shugart? Thompson?
Herb Thompson was the top head guy.
Okay.
He was the guy.
Okay.
He was the guy. He designed the whole head and put it in manufacturing.
And was that head significantly different than what you'd done at Pertec? Or
No. This is ferrite. He did a ferrite head.
So he did a ferrite.
Yeah.
So he did the ferrite head. You are still using
Yeah.
metal heads. So.
You know, his design was a little bit different.
Okay.
Okay, which I think caused him a little problem in the future, because you know what they did, getting into not too much technology here, they did a cross erase codes, straddle erase codes.
Okay.
You know, like they had in 2314 and all this thing. What IBM did, you know, is a two erase cores back of the head. So as you went and they erased that, you know, to make it a track after erasing it.
Okay.
And you need that when you're overwriting one track to the other, you know, because the tolerance, because you know we didn't have a closed loop. So you needed a erase core. So he did it a little bit, but then it throws your timing off for the industry capability. So here's the thing. Then I said, listen, I have money, okay? After taxes and all this thing, I had 60, 70.
Bonuses, you got some money. Right?
Yeah, I had $60,000, $70,000. I mean, you know,
okay.
So one day, I mean, you know, I had a good job. So one day I come back, and I tell my wife, I'm quitting my job. She said, "You're going crazy." I said, "No, I had this bug for so many years. I'm going to quit my job, okay?" And she said, "When?" I said, "Tomorrow, and I'm going to start my own." Well, anyway, she was a very good soul.
Well, certainly she was. I hope she was happy, but at least you got a plan. You're going to go start a company.
You know, my wife passed away about 2 years back.
I heard that.
She would have been happy either way. I mean, she was just a happy person,
yeah.
You know. So anyway, so what happened, I did quit my job. I said, listen, when we came here, this was only 7 years back, we had $58. We have that many thousands. Okay. So if the things don't work, I'll find a job. At that time, I had 2 kids, you know. But anyway, she said, "This is what you want. This is what you want." I said, "But you're going to work. You're going to you're not going to leave home. I'm going to bring this stuff to you. You assemble, you know, wires and all this. I'm going to make heads." Okay.
Oh, so you said to your wife that she's going to help you
Yeah.
build this stuff?
Yeah.
She can become your assembler?
Yeah.
You put her to work.
Yeah.
Okay.
At home. I put everybody to work, whosoever I knew. Okay. So I started the company.
So this is now what you call
75 now.
Magnetics.
This is Tandon Magnetics.
Right.
I just walked one day from these people, Pertec, got myself a little. In fact, I started literally in my garage.
And this is 1975 thereabouts.
1975.
Right? Okay.
bought some benches,
Okay.
and
So this is a garage shop type of operation, a little bit like
this was a
yeah.
real garage
Yeah.
shop. Okay. My brother, my son, who was 6 years old, we painted the benches. I still remember. Ended up painting them blue. And I said, well, I got a company. I'm in business. $7,000 I totally invested. That's it. So I started making 1 or 2 heads in my garage, you know, give them samples, and you know, people liked them. And there were some Memorex customers who needed refurbished head because Memorex has gone away. I made some special heads for them, made some money.
Now, are these heads a completely new head, or is this a similar head to what you'd already developed at?
This at that time it was similar head, but I started the plan to make ferrite heads.
All right, so that was the plan.
That was the plan.
Okay,
I'm going to make ferrite heads.
Okay.
Okay. By the way, if you don't have that in museum, you need to put them in museum. I got a whole process starting from the core all the way up to full transducer.
I think we probably got a lot of heads of various types, but I'd like to see that.
Yeah.
And it would be great putting it in a museum.
So anyway, what happened? Then I went and bought I took a shop. Okay. I mean, where we moved our desks.
How long did it take you?
About 3 months.
Just a few months.
2-3 months, yeah.
So you're now up to a handful of people or more?
No. I hired 1 assembler and 1 guy who didn't have a job, and then my wife.
So you had basically 3 employees.
3 employees. I started doing things. Okay.
Okay.
And then I maybe hired another 3 or 4 later on. But there was one requirement: anybody who has ever made a head or seen a head will not be qualified to work with me.
So you took exactly the opposite approach of hiring experienced people and said, I want people who have never tried this before.
No, because of the problem here was my goal at that time.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, you can call vision, or you can call goal, or you can call one thing. I noticed, I said, these guys are trying to sell something for a few $100s. They're willing to pay $40, $50, $60 for a head. Model doesn't work.
Yeah.
Why you're wasting your time? You know, because there's no market for $2,000 floppy drive, okay? And if you have a $80, $70 head, you can't do it. Particularly when the double-sided came, we'll go into that in a minute. But even the single-side head, okay? I said people were willing to pay $40, okay?
Willing to pay $40.
They said we want heads if you can get heads for $40.
So what was your goal on manufacturing costs then?
Okay.
About half that?
But let me finish, okay?
Okay.
I said I won't sell you for $40 because you cannot afford it. I'll make a better head for you and sell you for $15.
Ah, so 15 was your sales target, okay, sale price target.
And you know what happened? I put everybody else out of business.
Wow.
Now, how I did that, I explain you. You should interview my brother Jay someday too.
We'll do that. Okay. Was Jay not part of this? Was he
he helped me whenever.
Okay.
So I give you an example. I mean, I wish I could someday, since you are an engineer, someday give you the whole thing right from the beginning to end. How cleverly I can take credit for myself. That's why we beat everybody.
Now, did you document this, and also did you patent that?
No, I didn't patent it.
You did not patent
no,
it? Okay.
No. The reason I won't, because I don't want to give my secret sauce to anybody.
All right, so you kept it
Nobody was
secret.
allowed to see my fact. Now, I give you an example. You know, this little transducer has a crown on it. You know, there's a button like this.
Right.
It has this. We are at single sided. I'll go to double sided in a minute. It has a round crown on it. So
the idea being that you get the minimal amount of surface actually.
That's how we contact, and then you put a little pad on the back, to contact.
Right.
Okay, this is the way you need it. Okay, and so it's a little plastic. Now, Sugar made their own. and there was AMC, and there was Nortronics. These are the head companies, okay? They're trying to get into it. So all these floppy companies, they had to depend on AMC or Nortronics, okay? And they couldn't even produce at $40. So the example which I was giving you, Shugars and Herb Thompson, they developed a process. They take this head. So you have to take that head, polish it, right? You have to first make a curvature on it,
Right.
then you have to polish it. So the way they were making the curvature on it, rotating the head through a cylindrical piece,
All right.
that give you the, and then you have to go into a cylinder, same thing for polishing it, you know.
Yep.
So if you want to do, you know, 1 or 2 heads at a time, you will take lot of room, lot of big machinery, and it will cost you, you know, to do maybe 100 heads a day, it will cost you maybe $50,000, or, you know. And I said, you know, I cannot spend that kind of money on lapping and polishing. So I kept on sitting and thinking and thinking and thinking. I said, you know, there has to be a better way, okay? I said, you know, if I take a big ball and polish it, head on everything is spherical, right?
Yep.
So what I did, I said, you know, they polished optical lenses all the time. I know they are not doing one at a time, you know. So I started looking at the optical machine. I found one for $800. I called my brother. I said, can you pick up that machine? It was in Fremont, and bring it to LA. So I took an aluminum block with a heat sensitive glue. I mounted 70 heads on it. I put it on this lens polishing machine with a little cup on the top which is rotating, and this is going like this. I polished 70 heads in half an hour.
So was that machine designed to polish 70 lenses? Is that what I was trying to do?
No, no.
The
It
original
depends on
machine.
the size of the lens. I mean, I had to tool it myself, but I said,
Right.
listen.
So you figure out how to put
the reason
70
that what I wanted
heads
out
on
of that
top.
machine
Okay.
is a motion that the bottom is rotating like this, the arm is going back and forth.
Ah,
That's all.
all right.
That's all I want.
So that's the secret. All right.
That's all I want.
Yeah.
So people say, how he's producing that many? Where he got the money? Hey, my whole lapping investment was less than $2,000. I can produce all the heads you want. I have pictures of those. If you want to see, I can send those.
Wow.
So I think because I didn't have money, I become very innovative. Okay. I don't want to spend too much time because I thought you'll find it interesting.
Well, it's actually it's very interesting.
Huh?
We should go a little deeper. So, did you scale that up then and start building
Oh, yeah.
thousands of heads a day and that kind of thing?
Yeah, I'll tell you. So now I give you another example. Most of the people, all my competition, I used to see their heads. I said, they do a pretty damn good job. Why they're not working? You know, if you know magnetics, you know, in a magnetic loop, if you have a gap in the back,
Right.
you're going to do all the losses, right?
Yeah.
So this thing was done like a, you know, U-shaped core with a, you know, gap at the end, and then you have to attach you have to put the coils in it and attach a back bar. Those guys didn't know how to put a back bar because you are sitting in a little cavity and inside you need to put a back bar, so they tooled the hell out of it, you know. And what happened when they tooled it, epoxy used to go get in the back bar and the legs, head performance will go way down. Okay, so they didn't know how to lap. They did a good job. I made a living by buying those heads and removing the back bar and re-putting it in. It made money.
So
So
you
good.
actually bought their heads that didn't
Yeah.
work and repaired them?
Yeah,
So what was your secret to doing that? How
Okay.
did you make it
you
work?
you will laugh. I wish you could. You know, I said, okay, just give you an example. Here's the two legs, and you need to put this thing on,
Yeah.
right? good contact. All these, both surfaces are polished. Okay. I was thinking and thinking. I said, oh gosh, we have the solution right here. You know those hair clips the ladies put on this thing? I took those hair clip and cut the front off. They're two independent legs. So if you take that thing hair clip and put the bar and put the hair clip on, each leg is loaded automatically, right?
Okay. Wow.
So we bought Kmart ran out of hair clips. And then the other thing you have to do along with it, develop a epoxy which is very thixotropic, that it doesn't run but it's soft, you know, like lube.
Right, right.
Which you can do it by taking epoxy and putting some Cabosol. In those days they were putting asbestos, which is, you know, illegal.
Huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
But we didn't do that. We put Cabosol. It's a kind of powdery stuff. And so we put a glob of epoxy on each end, let them sit and cure, you're done. You know, so there are 5 other examples like this how we did it. Okay. We were so impressive. Our most impressive thing was that we were the most unimpressive company to look at, because people come, they say, you have nothing here. I say, don't need anything. Okay. Now I gave you a story. This is what I was trying to remember the name. The MPI's general manager.
Okay.
Charlie. There used to be NCC shows. You remember?
Yep.
This was before Comdex.
Right.
So there was
there
was a NCC show, 75, 76. I don't remember the date. In Minneapolis. You know, me and my other guy who was a hired sales guy, Jerry Limbus, we both flew to Minneapolis. And you know, we didn't have any money to put any, in fact, we took a red eye. We didn't have any money to open a booth or anything. I said, you know, what we are going to do, we are going to hang around our competition booth, which was Nortronics AMC. There was one more company from Boston. I don't remember the name of that. So we went there. And we parked ourselves just on the side of the Nortronics booth. Sure enough, this guy, I will remember the name, then
so the
I'll give it to you.
A guy from Oklahoma City.
Yeah,
right? Okay.
Charlie, and he's hunting for heads. And he went and talked to the guys over there, and how many heads you can produce. They were giving him, you know, they brought the guy who's, you know, because, and they were giving him all the, you know, and he started talking. He said, hey, we'll pay $40, $50, but we need it because my customers are dying and we need the head and all this thing. So when he finished the meeting, he was coming, I tapped on his head. I said, sir, I will sell you the head for $15 and be much better quality than any of these people can do. He didn't take me serious. I said, you have nothing to lose, okay? So he said, okay. He went back and he apparently gave that to his procurement commodity manager. He said, it doesn't hurt to try this guy out, okay? So so those guys were coming here to go to AMC. AMC was in Santa Barbara,
right?
Okay, because they had big plans with them, and we'll do that. So they came here. I got a fax from them, you know, that we are coming to survey your factory. Commodity manager, engineering manager, quality manager. I mean, you name it. I mean, 7 people. 7 or 8 people.
Entourage of
the people who's going to come to my factory, then go to the AMC factory.
Right.
I said, you know, my vice president sales was Jerry. I said, Jerry, they are 7. We are only 5 or 6 in our company. What are we going to do? I said, I got an idea. Fortunately, the next door building was empty. You know, these are these little bays, you know, they have this
Right,
manufacturer.
right.
That was empty. I said, Jerry, go and rent all the benches you can. We went and rented the benches and put it over there. And I knew McBain Instruments, the people who used to sell me microscopes, because I knew them, because you know they had business. We ended up doing tens of millions of dollars business with them at the end anyway, because we have hundreds of microscope gone to India and all this thing. We did business with them for a long time. But I knew the guy. I said, listen, I need to borrow maybe 20, 30 microscopes from you. So we set up the benches and everything, and we put the microscopes, and we put some parts and all this thing. I said, Jerry, now you got to go and get some actors. So he went to the Studio City, Universal Studio.
Yep.
He brought 20 extras. I said, what do we have to pay them? He said, just beer. These guys are happy to just do it. We put.
Also, they did it for free.
They did it for free. They did. We gave them beer, and we put them white coats on, and they're sitting there working, and
so you got these Hollywood extras
Hollywood extras, yeah.
for free,
Yeah.
white coats and
Yeah.
microscopes,
Yeah.
making your 5 people look like they're 25 or something.
What I had to do? I said, you know, listen, I'm going to beat them as far the head quality is concerned and this thing is concerned. Okay, so these guys show up. They see. I knew they won't understand anything. What can you understand? You know, some of the things we showed them. They said, and they said, they told me they're going to AMC. They said, I asked them. They said, oh, when can you supply your samples? Oh, these guys still were not taking serious with us. I said, do you just want the head? He said, yes. He said, why don't I will sell you the head and the carriage. They brought 2-3 carriages with him just to show that this is where it fits in. Okay, and they are looking for heads only because they had their own operation to mount. I said, where are you going from here? He said, we are going to go to AMC, then they are going to go someplace else. Within 5 days, they are going to be back in Minneapolis. I said, okay, I'll send you 5 samples. They gave me carriages. Okay. Now, there's another thing. They had their own tooling, which they spent thousands of dollars to mount the head of the carriage, because you know, in a removable media, the head alignment to the travel becomes very important.
Absolutely.
Because otherwise you're not going to read. So we had developed a phenomenal technique, which was no fixturing, strictly with epoxy. You know, using epoxy resistance and using a television. I developed the instrument myself. These guys were spending thousands of dollars to rotate the head, do this alignment. My fixture was costing me $150. That's it. Okay. He said, tell us how much is the tooling, how long will it take you? I said, you know, you guys go to AMC, don't worry about it, okay? They went to AMC. Before they went back, the heads were already delivered to them. No tooling cost, nothing.
So for $15, they got heads and tooled heads mounted on carriages for.
That was including mounting on carriage.
Right. Wow.
They were willing to pay $40. You know the end result? MP had never bought another head ever, ever, as long as they were in the business.
Right.
So you know, it was a phenomenon. I think it just.
It's a phenomenal story.
So anyway.
So all of this stuff that you developed, you never patented any of that stuff. You basically had a trade secrets that you.
It was really, there was nothing to patent other than the process, and
Right.
I don't like to patent processes,
Right.
because all you do, people take the same idea. Once the
yeah,
idea is
absolutely.
out, they will just move it around a little bit. It's very hard to protect it, you know, and nobody really copied me because it looks so silly, you know. But anyway, so now the fun part begins. Are we moving too slow?
No, you're doing great.
Okay.
I assume you're going to get into the double-headed.
Yeah, that's what
double-sided
I'm doing that.
story. Okay.
So anyway, IBM is making their own heads. Okay, they are making their own floppies.
All single-sided.
Single-sided. Then all of a sudden they announced a double-sided.
So they announced one. Okay.
They announced one
Okay.
double-sided drive. Of course, you know so the whole industry is kind of going in a panic mode, right?
Yep.
Because I mean, you double the capacity for a very little more cost, right? Just a cost of the transducer. So anyway, like we always do in our industry, we went and bought the IBM drive so that we could look at the heads. I look at the head. I said, gosh, what a nightmare. You see, what they did, first of all, you have to separate those heads in order to get the disc in. So it's not Winchester, right? So there is a motion that they are doing this way. Okay? Then inside that motion, they had another motion so that the heads move around with the floppy drive doing this. Because if the disc is flopping, then there is a suspension they built on some very fine
so
suspension.
Track the vibration of the movement of the,
this motion.
the
So
floppy itself.
So if you look at this head transducer, you really couldn't make less than $100. It was so complex. Okay, I mean, then the sliders are sitting there. Then you have to worry about the edges. You have to worry. I said, this is not what I want to do. But I have to get in double-sided because double-sided is going to make everything happen. So this was strictly my own idea because I didn't want to build that complex head. I didn't even know how to do it. IBM has resources and to do that. So I was looking at it. I said, this whole head design they are doing it is with the assumption that disk is flopping around, right? Yeah. So I'm going to follow the disk wherever it goes. It's a nightmare. I said, I always had stuff. I had this cartridge. We are still at 8-inch, by the way. And I'm pushing my fingers on it. I said, this disk in a small area is pretty darn stiff. I can almost assume it's a hard drive. It's a hard disk.
You're talking about in the area where the head is contacting it?
Right.
Okay.
I said, why do I need to follow the disk? Let the disk come to me.
Right. Okay.
One simple assumption changed the history of floppy drives. Nothing else. Okay. I said, no, okay. Now, very simple, right? I take a bottom head, make it a fixed head, is flat, right? So the disk comes out, it'll suck into it, and so that area became a hard disk. I have a little arm on the top with a little suspension on the head put in the top.
So you came up with the idea of the one side is going to be a fixed head.
One side is a flat thing that will make my disk
it down with the other one. Okay.
So you just lift it up,
right.
Insert the disk, and come down, and that suspension is just two little tabs is doing this. You don't need the suspension for anything else. I mean,
now, did you patent that?
Yes, that's
you did. So
by
you
the
did
way.
Patent that. Okay.
I won't even show it to anybody until I patent it.
Okay.
I made it. I could not believe it. I said, this works. Okay. Now, not only we patent that, there is not a single disk drive even today, or not today, so I mean for a long time, they they had to have a license from me. So Sony, I sold a license. IBM, I sold a license. IBM I had a cross license, you know,
okay.
on all technology. Toshiba, anybody who made floppy drives had to have a license from us. So one of the mistakes I made, which is okay, you know, this was later on the game when people came with a 3.5-inch drive. Particularly, they want to even even the 3-inch drives, you know, the small
right.
floppies. They had to all had to buy license from me. So basically, there was no computer produced without my patent. So on the mistake I made, because I needed the money for the company, because I didn't raise a hell of a lot of money ever, you know. I did some, you know, in the early days. I sold outright licenses. In those days, I thought $5 million here, $3 million here, $4 million.
So it's basically a one-time license for.
If I had gone for, we were talking about the other day. If I had sold them a license on royalty,
right.
It'll be $100 million a year for 20 years. Right. But anyway, you never worry about those
okay.
things, right? So anyway, it was fun. So once I did the.
Now, is that your first patent? You've done a lot of inventing here in this story already.
That was the first.
That's the first thing you patent, right?
I patented a few things later on, you know, several things later on. But in the process, I never want to do a process patent. You know, sometimes the people, it's a good idea. I mean, any young company, I will recommend that patent all you can, because intellectual property has a lot of value. You know.
So when was the time frame that you brought the double-sided out?
77 maybe.
77?
Yeah,
okay.
something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I assume at that point your company really started to take off.
No, we were just a head company, making good profit. Okay. At that time, when we were doing the double-sided head, okay, and everything is still 8-inch, okay. Until that time, I had taken investors maybe $250,000, $300,000 total. And by the way, we had the biggest brand name. Those guys are biggest brand name today who were my investors. Don Valentine.
So Valentine's one of your early guys.
He was the early guy.
Okay.
Dick Kramlich.
Wow. So you had really good you built.
Sandy Robertson.
Wow.
TA Associates. Jean Deliage.
You get those kind of guys, and each only got a small amount of money into it?
They made a lot of money.
Yeah, but I mean, they put a lot of money in, right?
Well, you know, the thing is this. I raised only $2 million.
Altogether.
Altogether. So I know Dick Kramlich told me that I think he put in $200,000. He cashed out 40 or something like that. So he did okay, you know, or his company. So anyway, so I had the backing of the. So double-sided head. Then the 3.5-inch came, which is Sugar did it, you know.
Right.
And you know who drove that thing in what I know of?
You mean within Sugar?
Yeah. No. Who demanded that drive?
Well, it was. I think it was Compaq was looking for a smaller device for their systems, right?
Dr. Wang.
Oh, was it Wang? Was it
Dr. Wang.
Oh, it was Wang. Okay.
Yeah, I went and saw.
Word processors. Okay.
I went and saw Dr. Wang.
Okay.
Interesting guy.
So Wang was pushing for the 3.5.
Huh?
That makes sense, right?
Okay. So when the 3.5-inch came, okay, that's when PC started taking off.
Right.
78, 79, right? 77, whatever the time is. Until that time, it was many computers play, right? Well, there were some PCs, but 3.5-inch for the, you know. So it was Shugard was the only company at that time in 3.5-inch. Okay. Now there were two companies.
Were they the first out with the 3.5, Shugard?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So there were two companies who needed a lot of heads, lot of drives, Tandy and Apple.
Okay.
Okay. Now Apple was doing Apple needed a lot of drives and Tandy needed a lot of drives. Okay. At that time, most of them were single-sided, but they also wanted to go to double-sided.
Because Apple was still a pretty young company at that point.
Yeah, but they were doing
Start to take off.
well. Volumes weren't that big anyway. This is prior to IBM, you know. So John Roach, I don't know you remember John Roach or not. He was CEO of Tandy.
Yeah, I never knew him. Okay.
By the
He
way,
was
Tandy did very well in PCs in early days. You know, TRS-80 was
Yes, it was.
yeah
Yes, it was.
very big. So Tandy is, in fact, Bill Gates, Tandy made them because they gave him their first contract, you know. So John Roach is, he can produce enough computers because he can get enough drives, okay. So he goes to the Orange County, there were 3 or 4 floppy companies in Orange County, and then he goes to Shugard and several places he goes to hunt for, you know, the 3.5G drives, okay. Now, other than Shugard, who was committed to Apple, because you know Apple wasn't produced, but there were numbers weren't that big anyway on anything, okay. John Roach, every place he goes, they tell him that, oh, we are trying to get more heads from Jugi so we can give you more product, because I was the only game in town.
Right.
Only company who was producing
you
heads.
basically had almost a monopoly on the heads then.
I had a monopoly on the double-sided. So what happened? I was in Chatsworth. I'm still doing my thing, and I was beginning to think that I need to get to the drive business, okay, because I said my customer base is so weak. You know, even if I save them $30, they still don't know what the hell they are doing, and Shugard will just eat their lunch. So I haven't done it yet, okay. John Roach, I get a call from somebody, you know, that John Roach want to come see you. I mean, I got shocked. I said, you know, he's from Orange County, he drives all the way to Chatsworth, you know, which is 70, 80 odd miles. He comes to me and he said, I want to know who Jugi Tandon is, because nobody knows me, okay. That happened to me a few times, by the way.
Did he know you were Jugi at the time, or he was looking for Jugi? He just happened to ask this guy he saw, where's Jugi?
No. I mean, he was looking for me when he came over there. Okay. He told me, he said, you know, every place I go, they say, Jugi, give us more heads, you know. And so John Roach comes to me and he says, every place I go, this is what they tell me. Why can't you give us more heads? I said, John, it's not the head is not the problem. These guys don't know what the hell they are doing. You know, I sell them the head. You know, they spend more money in retesting the heads which they don't need to. And these guys don't have the discipline. They really don't want to be in this business. Somehow the corporate and John said, why don't you get into the hard drive business? I said, that sounds like a good idea. You know what he did?
Did he say to get in the hard drive business or the
No.
business?
I'm saying, why don't you get in the drive business?
The drive business, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not hard, I'm
Yeah,
sorry
hard.
if I said hard.
So the floppy, basically.
Yeah, floppy business. I said, that's not a bad idea. What can you do for me, John? He took a napkin, wrote an order for 50,000 drives.
So
He said,
right
"Can you
there, on a napkin, he wrote a $50,000
50,000 units.
units order.
Yeah. He said, I'll pay you this much and this is the order. Get going. I mean, this is
Wow.
this is not a made-up
So
story.
what year was this? Late 70s?
Late 70s.
78, 79, something like that?
Yeah.
Wow.
So what happened? Fortunately, I had very good investors. I didn't know at that time they were that good. You know,
That's one of the best.
well, we had in our board who was that company, TA Associates,
Okay.
Kevin Landry.
All right.
He just passed away, very big guy. Don Valentine,
Right.
I think Dick Kramlich was there, and Jean Deliege, who was Sophie Nova, you know. Sandy Robertson came in later on. Okay, so I went there. I said, guys, you always supported me, and I had a sort of preliminary thing that they will give me $2 million for 30% or something number of the company. Knowing these VCs, they knew that I came to them. I got 2 weeks money left, but I got this big opportunity from Tandy.
So they knew you only had 2 weeks of money at that point?
Yeah, and you know that VCs are going to use you if they know that. So they had only at that time $250,000, $300,000 into it, you know. So I go to the board meeting. I tell these guys, I need $2 million. We already had a kind of a discussion. That's the equity. Let's do it. I don't know who. I don't remember. One of the guys said, "Well, we should get 50% of the company." Another guy said, "Yeah, we need to negotiate it and all this thing." I said, "Guys, is there anybody in this room who wants to stick to the original deal, or shall I just close the company?" They all kind of looked at it. Kevin Landry, who passed away, "I don't need anybody, I'll take the whole deal." Then everybody got panic. Anyway, to make the story short, we got that deal done. Okay,
So you got the $2 million.
We up to the horses then, you know, just to.
And how much did the company have to give away for that?
I don't remember the numbers, but you know.
Less than 50, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I was very generous to my employees. You know, when we went public, I had 40 people who were line people. They were millionaires. You know, the girls who were assembling parts, some of them made over $1 million. You know, I mean it was.
When did you go public, by the way?
80.
In 80. So this is after this. So you did
this is
$2
before
million
that.
and
Then no other money.
So these guys made some money then too.
Oh, they made a lot of money.
They made a lot of money, sure.
But anyway.
So did you go ahead then and deliver your 50,000 floppy?
Oh yeah. By the way,
Tandy
never bought a floppy drive from anybody else ever.
That was it. Okay.
And all the hard drives.
So how long did it take from the time that the guy wrote the order on the napkin
1 year.
and you actually delivered the products?
1 year.
Wow.
1 year.
That's remarkable.
Yeah.
So now did you build that factory in India? Is that where you put it?
No, that factory was still here.
Was it
Then
in the US?
I moved to Singapore. I'll come to that.
Okay.
So, you know, I tell you why we were so wildly successful in the floppy business. Okay, I mean we were it. Okay, a number of things. One thing is very obvious. You see that we had the double head technology.
And that was exclusive, and you were the only guy in town, and
Right.
the whole thing.
But you know, hanging around with Bill Gates and John Roach and Don Astridge and Steve Jobs, you know, we used to have this Ben Rosen conferences. You know, we always get together every 2-3 months in Palm Springs or Arizona or something. You know,
You're getting together that often? Every couple of months?
maybe every 6 months, but we did a lot. And then we have AEA meetings, you know, where we all got together to see each other. You know, people don't realize it. None of us, our attitude were not the same. I'm sure if we talk to some of the other people of that era, they will talk about. We didn't even know whether we are going to make money or what the money is, or, you know, none of us has seen money, and we were not into money that much. We haven't seen that many examples. People made a lot of money into technology in those days. We were only obsessed with one thing. Let's put a computer in every house. Okay? And I said, these guys are the quarterbacks, you know, Steve Jobs and Bill Gates and all this thing. But if you don't have good linemen, you're not going to win the game.
Right.
That's what we were doing. We were doing the blocking and tackling. How could PC ever succeed if people like us did not put their foot down and said, we want to make it a very inexpensive storage?
Right.
I tell you a little story. One time, Don Valentine, when I was starting in making drives, Don Valentine called me. He said, I want to bring you a friend of mine, or our investment, and we want to come and see you. I said, yes. So he comes with his kid, long hair. He wore a suit and tie, but he has, sandals, wearing that in those days. And Don Valentine, we walk into my shop. He said, this is Steve Jobs.
That's the first time you met Steve. Okay.
That's the first time I met Steve. And he had his first computer had a cassette recorder. You remember that?
Yes. Yes.
Because there were no random access memory available for that kind of a price.
Right.
And so I told, Steve was born arrogant.
I've never met him, but I've heard the story.
But he has every right to be, okay?
Right.
And unfortunately, I was on the bit arrogant side too, because I wasn't that much older than him and wasn't doing that much worse. But anyway, so I told him that I said, I told Don too. I said, he said, you have no idea. I'm going to make millions of computers. I said, Steve, you have no idea. I'm going to make millions of drives. We both end up doing that, but none of us believed each other. But anyway,
now, at the point that you had Valentine introduce Steve to you, you already were making your own hard drives for Tandy? Floppy drives?
No,
Tandy?
this was prior to that.
Just before that?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is before Tandy's order.
Yeah.
So you weren't in the drive business yet. You were.
Well, see, I could never sell to Apple because my whole production was eaten by Tandy.
Yeah.
Then okay, so then the whole landscape changed.
Well, wait a second. Yeah. I'm not sure I quite understood what you just said.
Okay.
When you first met Steve Jobs through Don Valentine,
I was just getting into the drive business.
Just getting into the drive business.
Right.
And Tandy was your only customer because he'd written you
Well,
order for
I had no
50,000.
customer at that time.
Right.
I had no customers at that time. I was still selling heads.
Well, but all right. So but I thought you didn't get into the drive business until Tandy basically wrote you an order.
No, that's what I'm saying. I probably had that order, but I didn't
But
ship
you
any.
didn't have it yet.
I
You
didn't.
didn't have the
Right,
drive.
right.
All right.
This was during that period.
Okay, all right.
Because Don Valentine, he had made the investment, then he came.
Yeah, all right.
Okay.
I got it. Right.
I mean, but I tell you a good story about Steve Jobs. Later on, Steve said, come over, I want to show you what I am doing, So I went to Cupertino. They had a small building there. I went in there. They said, I said, I want to see Steve Jobs. He said, oh, his office is down the corner there, small office. So I went there, and I can find him. In fact, my brother was with me, Jay. And I can find him. I then say, Steve, his voice comes from under the desk.
He's underneath the desk?
He's sitting underneath the desk. I said, Steve, what are you doing there? He said, it was noisy, so I decided to work underneath the desk.
So you delivered the drives to Tandy, and they never bought it from anybody else with you, and I assume they bought eventually
Never.
hundreds of thousands or something, a lot of them, right?
Oh, I made millions.
Millions for them.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So when did Steve actually sign up to start taking your drives?
I never sold to Steve.
Oh, so you never did sell to him?
Never sold to Steve.
All right.
Well,
All right, I missed that. So you
No,
never actually got an order
I
from
never did
Apple.
business with Steve because from the day one, he didn't believe me, I didn't believe him. So another thing too, okay, what happened?
Wow.
After IBM announced, Apple wasn't a very attractive customer. You probably remember that.
No, that's true. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so, but I tell you another story about Steve Jobs, which is so much has been written and so many movies has been made, but what I know, these people don't know. Steve came to me. I told him, I said, listen, I'm the only one who can do the double-sided. I'm sorry, you know. And he said, well, I'll make my own drives. I said, go ahead. I don't have a problem with that. So he puts a team together, which was a total failure, by the way. You know, he was trying to use one head on this time, because Steve always had the idea, I don't need to go standard. I can make my own disc. I don't care about, you know, anything standard.
And he didn't want to use your patent either, right? So he wanted.
He
to do
doesn't
his
want to
own
use.
thing.
Well, but what that guy did, which was very disappointing, because since I got to know him and I show him my people and all this thing, I had gone to India for a couple of weeks. Later on, he came to Los Angeles, hired my whole team.
Oh, he did?
Yeah.
When was this?
About the same time. I mean,
So late 70s?
yeah,
So your team actually left and went to go to work for Steve
yeah,
while you're away in India.
yeah.
So what happened then?
Well, I said, hey, I can manage. I mean, it's not a big deal. I mean, you know, because by the way, I told you, not too many people knew I was it in that company.
Right.
I didn't need anybody. I mean, I had studied so much the floppy business. You know, I didn't even have a fixture designer, you know, designing my tooling.
Mm-hmm.
I did the head design, coil design, all the tooling, everything.
So you had all the IP in your head, and
I
the
had-
people
I had
you
all-
hired were just basically your assemblers.
Yeah, yeah. I said that's okay, and and I knew when he took that team,
You
he's
didn't
going to
hire your
fail.
wife, though,
He's going to
right?
fail.
I assume, right?
Huh?
You didn't get your wife, though, I assume, right?
Huh?
She was still part of the team, right? Your wife?
No, my wife never left. She never really worked. I mean, what we used to do, she used to bring some home, you know, making the pigtails and cables, and she's just sitting there and like knitting and do that. But I had my brother, when he came over there, I'll put him to test heads. We'll give you $1 a head, you know, test them or something like this. So there are a lot of help I got from this kind of thing. But anyway, so we were extremely successful in the.
So you then got a new team, and you ended up going public not too long after that, right?
No, we went public in after we got the IBM contract.
Right, so
IBM,
you got IBM then, all right, okay. So when did you get the IBM project contract?
Gosh, must be 79.
Right.
IBM. When did the IBM announce the PC?
81. They announced the PC right after or right about the time I joined DEC, which was August 81. And within a few months, they announced the PC.
Okay, so we went public before IBM.
Yeah.
Yeah, we went public 80.
So in 80, all right.
Yeah. So anyway,
So right in that little time frame then, you went from building heads to getting a major order from Tandy, and they got in the drive business.
I was the only game in town.
Steve decided to go build his own and never bought anything from you, and you went and sold your team, and then you went public, all in a period of a couple of years there.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you know.
and then you got the IBM contract after you went public?
Yes.
All right, so when IBM decided to go build the original PC, their PC,
Only my head.
you were your drives.
I think the first 2 million or 3 million PCs IBM built were my only my drives.
All right, and so you that's when you met Estridge and all those guys, and
Yes.
so when they announced that product, it had your floppy
All the way.
drive in it.
All
and
the way.
only your floppy drive.
Only.
So you end up an exclusive with IBM, an exclusive with Tandy, but never got anything from Apple.
Yeah. And everybody else.
Yeah.
And everybody else.
All right, so I know that you got into the hard drive business not too long after that, right? So when did you,
Right about
when
the
did
same
you do
time.
that, and what was the decision that made you do that?
Well, you know, let me tell you something about the drives, okay?
Okay.
My talking about the floppy drive or the storage for the PC, I was stuck on one thing, that we must bring the cost of the box down. Okay, I know everybody's going to bring the cost of per bit down. We've been doing that for ages, right? That's done by materials. You know, you get better media, you get a better head, you get a better, you know, but nobody is addressing the cost of the box. If the cost of the box stays $2,000, we are not going to get any place, you know, because thank God we did that, you know. So my floppy thing, I want to say, okay, it should go to $50.
And what were you selling it for at the time?
150.
150.
Yeah.
Okay.
I said we have to go to $50.
And you were the first guy, I think you told me, to get below $200 on.
No, I'm talking to Floppy.
Right.
I'm talking to Floppy. We were the first guy announced. In fact, I called it TM, Tandon Magnetic 50, because I want to sell for $50.
Okay.
Okay. And how we did that? You know, this is the same philosophy. I took it on the hard drive. Okay. You know, when we talk about material, bill of material, okay, it depends what you're talking about. If you're going to get assembled head, if you're going to get an assembled board, your BOM is very high, right? But if you really become a ridiculous that, okay, I want to go to the basic materials, what is my basic material cost? It's probably $1 worth of silicon and $2 worth of metal in it, right? Because if you grind it, it's got some aluminum and some silicon. So my philosophy was that if we do vertical integration, make everything ourselves, we can design those products exclusively for our application. Volumes are going to be there. Nobody's going to benefit from the volumes. I give you an example on the motor. Okay, when your stepper motor, when Shugart got into the business of 3.5-inch drive, he got himself a vending machine motor, because this vending machine makes hundreds of thousands of motors. I'll just go and buy one for, you know, their engineers for $12 or something like this.
Now, just to back up a second, what had they used prior to that on the 8-inch floppy? Something completely different?
No, I'm talking about even the small floppy. No.
The 8-inch floppy had.
No, even the other one.
Okay.
Even the other one, they had a cheap motor.
Okay.
Okay.
But he bought it from a vending machine company. Yeah.
28 millisecond access time. But they say it's in volume. Their philosophy was that there's already so much volume, let's bring that in. Okay. I went to a German company, got this square motor, which eventually floppy hard drive used the same thing, you know, 3 millisecond access time compared to 28 millisecond access time. And I asked this German company called Burglar R.
Okay.
They said it's a $28 motor. I told my engineers that's what I want. They said we cannot compete. Okay. This is a true story. I called the engineers in. Burglar sent me a sample of the motor. I took the motor apart, put the pieces on the, I did that on many products. Call my engineers. Tell me how much this should cost. $1 for this thing, $1 for this thing, 50. I said, why we are paying $28? So I sent my brother. The other company was making Japan Servo. They were making that motor. I said, go to Japan Servo. He said, we want to make motors. Okay, give us a license. We'll work with you. We'll give you royalty or whatever. Same motor. We went and did there. You know how much we were making that motor for? $3.
So, did Japan Servo at the time build a motor very similar to that?
Yeah,
for
very
about the same cost?
No, they were building it, but this was we showed them how to build it, but they were expensive because they were building in Japan.
Yeah, all right.
Okay,
right. So you licensed their design and built it for $3.
Yeah.
I assume you modified a little bit. Got the $3.
Yeah.
From what was costing them what?
And the Shugart then did the same thing.
Wow.
Or Seagate. Seagate. So my idea of the floppy drive and the hard drive, particularly hard drive, I'll come to is even more so, is that go down as much as you can for vertical integration, okay? And once you do the vertical integration, your material becomes labor, right?
Yep.
Material becomes labor. Go to a low cost labor base. You can do whatever you want. You know, how far you want to go, you know. I mean, I didn't end up making, we even thought about making our own bearings, which we didn't do eventually, but we did our motors, we did our own heads, we did our media. And so my idea was at that time that we got to get the floppy at $50 and we got to get the hard drive at $200. And then we had to break that $200 barrier to bring to the same price as the floppy. Okay. Eventually, when I look at the drive, there's no reason it should cost more than $50. Finally, whole world is finding out, yes, it should not.
In fact,
right?
Today the average disk drive costs about $35.
That's where I had the goal at that time.
Right.
Okay. So we were able to achieve the $200 drive. Everybody said I'm gone crazy. I said, listen, you know, one of the things people don't realize, when the PCs came out, we came out with everything was floppy drive. That was the main storage.
Right, right. That was the only storage.
Only storage, right. Okay. And when Seagate, Alan Sugar went and started Seagate, when they came with the concept of 3.5-inch hard drive, and we started maybe a couple of months later, not that far back from them. Okay,
I don't know. The 5 1/4 with the original Seagate, or are you talking about 3?
I did 5 1/4.
Yeah,
we did 5 1/4. And you know what the thinking was? The studies were going on. Our goal is, they said, is to do 20 to 30% of all the PCs should use hard drives. I don't know you remember that.
No, I don't remember that number, but it's interesting that they had a number, because they originally were all PCs were all.
They said, why anybody want the?
Right.
You know what I did?
Because they became 100% after.
No. I tell you what I did, and like I said, I don't know how many people know these stories or not, but you know, a guy like Tom Mitchell probably knows. So, what I did, I took a PC. I think it was there's a company called Sirius or some PC, you know, which was IBM compatible PC.
Okay.
This was when everything was floppy, okay, and people were you know, you could buy a PC with a hard drive or without a hard drive. You remember that, right? Or two floppies, one hard drive, one floppy, and all this. I had some engineers. I said, you know, because one of the things I always had in mind, if I'm making heads, I must understand the whole drive system. And then I had, if I'm making the drive, I must understand the PC, because to me that's a fundamental ingredient to bring the cost down. Right. Otherwise, you'll never be, because that gives you the opportunity to balance your design. You know, I mean, everything is. I mean, you know, if you put cheap tires on a Ferrari, it has all the power, but it's not going to run. Right. You're as strong as your weakest link.
Right.
You know, once you understand where the application is, you have a chance of doing something about the cost. If you don't, so we understood PCs, but there's a problem with that strategy, because you get tempted to go into that business. And that's what happened to us. We'll come to that in a minute. So what I did, I made a system with a hard drive and took it to Comdex. I said, I want the people to go and look at it. System works totally different. If you don't have a floppy, if you have a floppy, see, floppy at that time, my goal was the floppy will become a program loading thing. It should not be anything more than that, okay? Because hard drive, if you boot it from the hard drive and design your computer around hard drive, it works totally different. People were very impressed. And I did some studies and all this thing. They said, gosh, it's too expensive, because Seagate was selling for $500 or something like this, I said $200.
So
How?
when did you do this? When did you go to the Comdex on that? That like 82, 83, 84, something like that?
I will have probably find out someplace. I think it was 82.
All right.
Yeah,
Right.
it was probably 82.
Okay.
That's when Seagate was, pushing hard drives, and we were getting both kind of computers,
Okay.
So anyway, it had a big impact. And the way we did it simply, did my magnetic heads in India. The reason in India it was very difficult to do business, because of the infrastructure wasn't there. Singapore has all the infrastructure, I was able to buy Rolleiflex cameras, old factory, and we just fit it. It was beautiful factory, and we did hard drives there, we did floppies there, and media we did in San Jose, heads we did in India, and China wasn't on the map at that time.
Were you the first guy to build heads and or anything that had to do with disk drives in India?
Or out of this country.
Yeah.
Out of this country. People, listen to me. I had so much criticism. You cannot take this kind of technology out of the US because it's very difficult to do. I said, there's nothing difficult to do. Just go and train the people over there.
Right.
And by the way, guess what happened? Everybody followed me to Singapore.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I think Singapore economy was built because of what I did.
Singapore, there's no question it was a major move to Singapore in right about that same time frame. But India, you were the first guy to go into India. And
no, but when I went to
Comdex.
Singapore, nobody was there at that time.
Okay.
We went in 79 probably.
Well, it had to be about that time, because I know that Quantum and those guys were into.
Oh no, they went way after me.
Yeah,
They went
by
way.
82, 83. By the time Matchbook got formed, they were
No,
already
we were there way before anybody even thought about it.
Okay.
Then they had to. Everybody followed me. Everybody followed me. So anyway, so that went. So we did okay. Now, so we had a pretty good run from, and as we are talking about, there has been so much turmoil, so much up and down in any developing industry. You will see that, consolidations and whatnot. So when IBM, just going back to when IBM announced their PC.
Right, 81. Okay.
It changed the whole landscape.
Yes, it did.
Oh, what a change. Okay. Apple was in trouble. That's when, everybody wanted IBM compatible stuff. Okay. Compaq, Dell, they came a lot later. Okay. And Tandy got in trouble because Tandy did a machine which was MS-DOS machine, but IBM DOS was different than the MS-DOS, so they weren't compatible.
Was that their fundamental problem? They were compatible. They were never compatible. Okay.
They weren't compatible. Okay. And there was North Star, there was Kermenko, and there was Laurie Harp's company. I forgot the name. My whole customer base disappeared. I'm an IBM vendor. Tandy was still doing. So, once again, Mr. Roach approached me. He said, I understand you have some pretty good computer engineers. I said, yes, I do. He said, can you develop me a computer? We were the first IBM compatible computer.
So he's the one that came. So he came to you as the one who said, "Will you do me an IBM compatible computer?"
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So you were also
Well,
the first IBM compatible computer.
But it's the funny thing is,
Okay.
it was the conversation between me and John Roach only. Nobody in Tandy even had an idea. Okay.
Wow.
So.
And so when was that? That must have been 83, 84, something like that? Maybe even a little later?
No, earlier than that. can we just?
So he recognizes, yeah, we can finish that later, but,
yeah, we
or
can.
fill in later, but so he recognized quickly that he had a problem not being IBM
He has a
compatible.
problem, but his people won't,
And he needed you or
by the
somebody
way,
to go do it.
you know, John Shirley was there, Patterson was there, these people didn't recognize that. You know, I came back, I didn't have any commitment from this thing. I came back, I had my team, you know, because we were, I had the team handy because, you know, I thought in order to be successful in the drive business, it's a good idea to know more about computers, you know. And, you know, we were the first company who developed IBM compatible BIOS. We were the first one. And IBM accepted that we developed our own, because I had every engineer who works on my BIOS sign an affidavit that we will not look, and we never look IBM in BIOS. We will not copy. And by the way, I ended up having cross license with IBM on all PCs or whatever I wanted.
So they accepted you essentially like a second source then?
Not second source of that.
But they cross licensed anyway.
Yeah, we had a, you know, IBM always used to do that. You know,
yeah, well,
if you have
IBM,
enough technology.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you have, so anyway, I built a full computer, working MS-DOS, went to Tandy Towers, put it on John's desk. He brought his commodity manager and everybody. I said, this is 100% IBM compatible, yours is not. We were in the computer business. And so, you know, all this time, I went public and raised about $20–30 million. I never raised any money. I mean, I'm sure if you ask me that if I have to do everything all over again, what will I do? I'll give you the answer for that. Make sure that you have a lot of money. You know, you go bankrupt when you run out of money.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the definition of that. So
well, let's talk about that a little bit later, about what actually happened later. But bottom line is that you're now
in the PC
building your
business.
own computers. You're building your own hard disks. You're
Okay.
into the Asian area, Singapore and India, and eventually China, building this stuff. You're now building IBM compatible computers. So
Right.
the company had to be pretty good size by that time. You must have been getting into the point where you were several $100 million.
Oh yeah. By the
size
way,
company in
my
revenue,
floppy
right?
my floppy company went from $20 million to $40 million to 100 some odd million to, you know, we were $400–500 million company.
Okay.
But here's the thing.
Did you ever get to $1 billion as
No.
a company?
No,
But you got in $500 million.
$500 million. Yeah. Maybe 600 one time.
Yeah, something
500,
like that,
600.
right.
Yeah. So what happened? I mean, you know, remember, we are talking about in those days.
Oh yeah, we're talking about.
You know, we
yeah,
were a big company at $400
We're
million
talking about the
in
middle
'80. Yeah.
talking
That's a big company at
30
that
years
time.
ago.
Yeah.
Over 30.
So here's the thing. I got phenomenal technology. You know, we really know how to do things the right way. We are making our own media. We are making our own heads right from scratch. Okay, MIG heads, and we are doing our motors. We are so vertically integrated, it's pathetic. I mean, we could beat anybody on any game as far as the drives are concerned. Now, then once I got into the PC business, main reason it looks very interesting to me. Okay, there are a number of reasons I chose to go to the PC business. Is one thing, my customer base was getting very big as far as the drives are concerned. Okay, and number two, I was getting tired of OEM people's behavior. I mean, even today, I will have a hard time doing OEM business because Apple will tell you, you can make products for me, but you can't make any money on it.
Oh yeah, well, they're always squeezing down the price. Absolutely.
You know, so anyway, it was the right thing or the wrong thing. I never think back. You know, I mean, apparently it was the wrong thing because look at where Western Digital is today. Okay, so we said, gosh, we cannot fund both of them. Okay, but I cannot go into the PC market in the US because I don't want to offend Tandy. Okay, so we got I said, okay, I'm going to go in the PC business. I talked to my board. I said, I like the PC business because at that time really there was no player. Apple was doing very badly.
Hold on, hang on. Let me just catch something here. Tandy approached you to go do an IBM plug compatible.
Not
PC
officially.
for them, right?
Not officially. Only the chairman told me that I need it
Okay.
because he didn't want to tell his people.
Oh, all right. So they never actually consummated that deal then.
No, I got the deal only after I had the computer, but I had confidence. If I had the computer working, he'll buy it.
All right.
Then he bought
Okay.
lot.
But at that point, then IBM was also cross-licensed you, and he was buying, Tandy was buying IBM compatible computers from you, right? PCs from you at that
Yeah,
point. Okay.
yeah. But the floppy business was kind of starting to level off a little bit and going down actually, because hard drives had come up.
Was he selling those outside the United States? Is that what you were talking about? You didn't want to go into the United States and compete with them?
Well, there are a number of reasons why I chose Europe. Okay. One thing is that if you want to launch a product in US, it's a very major undertaking. You know that?
Yep.
Because
Yeah.
you can't launch in California, don't launch in Indiana, or you have to, whole country is very big. It costs a lot of money, which we didn't have, by the way, because we didn't, when we got to the computer business, we didn't raise any money. It was just bootstrapped from whatever internally we had. Okay. And the advantage of Europe was, one thing, we won't offend our customers. European market is very lucrative, so we let's start in Germany. Once we get stabilized Germany, then we can wait 2 months and do it in Spain. We can do then in France, then in So eventually, in the early 90s, in fact, so 87. I had to, it come to the point that I got to make a decision because I am going to be in conflict with my customers. I can become a PC company, or I can stay as a disk drive company.
Okay.
Now, it's hindsight. At that time, disk drive business looked pretty bleak. There
wasn't much margin there.
No, not only margin, but the customer base was gone. Too many people are buying it, unless you want to totally depend on IBM, And now, so I got an idea with my engineer. I said, now the controllers are just a silicon. Controller is just a silicon. Why don't we put the controller on our board, so that you have a direct plug into a computer?
In the drive, basically put the controller in the drive.
Well, that's what it,
Right.
we started that. Like I said, Seagate gets the credit because, but WD knows that. XT,
the XT, right.
XT. So I said, let's find a controller company we can work with. So WD was a controller company. So we put a team together between us and those guys.
So that was how you got started working with Western Digital.
Western Digital.
Because they were a controller company at the time.
By the way, they were ready to go out of business because controllers was a very tough business.
Right.
And Roger Johnson became a good friend of ours. I said, Roger, either I got to buy you and be in the, because my belief is that controller technology, drive technology got to stay together, okay? Or you can have all this, I can go do PCs. So all my factories, all my technologies, Singapore, everything, except they didn't want to go to India, so we kept that head business in my family. My brother, both brothers were running that. And so, I consider that my disk drive business is still alive because that's what it is. The name is Western Digital now.
It's the biggest of them all right now.
Huh?
So just to fill in the cracks here, you are now talking to Western Digital about putting a controller in your drives, and then you convince them that.
No, we did it. We did that.
Yeah, then you convinced them that that they should take the whole disc business from
Well,
you.
I don't know they convinced me
so
or
you
I
could go
convinced
off and
them.
be in the PC business, which wasn't a great business either. So you
No,
kinda-
PC business that was good business.
Oh, it was pretty good. Then.
At that time it was good business because nobody had IBM compatible. There was new window
All right,
opened.
all right,
See, there was new window opened at that time, okay? Because Apple was struggling. They were even thinking of, Scully wanted to go into the IBM compatible stuff.
So you then sold the hard drive side of Tandon Magnetics to Western Digital, I believe in 1988, right?
Yeah. And by the way, WD has no experience in drives.
No, I understand that.
Yeah.
I understand. Of course, one of our mutual friends, Mr. Marshall Lee, was one of the first guys to be assigned by Western to try to figure out what the disk drives are all about.
Yeah. So we
Right.
put them in business, which is
Wow.
good. It's
So
good
at that point, you said they didn't want to be in India, so that you kept supplying heads to them from India. Then basically, that's why you continued to build heads and so forth.
we
for 'em?
supplied for a long time.
Yeah.
But then
you were their
of
head
course
suppliers.
we did some GMRs, but then Western Digital did the right thing for themselves. They start vertically integrating,
Right,
and they bought Read Write.
Right.
That was the turning point for WD, I think.
Okay.
Every time they had a turning point. I mean, when they were going out of business, they acquired Tandon, then they acquired this thing. They made the right decision at the right time. But the question we were talking about, why Seagate and WD are the only two existing companies today to speak of anything.
Right.
Okay. First of all, the big disk drive companies were put out of business by the small drive companies,
Right.
because they didn't recognize, just like the main computer people didn't recognize the mini computer, and mini computer didn't recognize the PCs, big companies didn't. So there are none of the classical disk drive companies of old days even attempted to get into the small thing. IBM did, which didn't succeed because became part of Hitachi and all this thing. So there were new companies who came over. Okay, but if you look at the new companies who came into this arena, which was Micropolis, Quantum, Maxtor,
Miniscribe and a bunch of
Miniscribe, and the original two companies who started in the small business was Tandon and Miniscribe. Everybody came later on,
Right.
if you look at the date. But we were the only two vertically integrated companies. We made everything in-house. None of those other companies did that. They have fantastic design. Quantum had some good designs. Everybody has some good designs. But in the long term, it's controlling your own destiny. Seagate, now Western Digital, we made our own heads, we made our media. They still do their own, now they do totally their heads, they do their own media.
Of course, Seagate got that from CDC.
CDC
was 100%.
that's why those
vertically
two,
integrated
yeah,
Right.
I mean, I don't want to discount their management and all this thing, but that's why they survived.
Right, absolutely.
And this is exactly what my vision was at that time. I said, Tom, someday people will recognize it. What was done at that time has so much influence on what we are doing today. All this, Facebooks and Googles and all this thing. Just think about if they didn't have low cost storage, what will they do?
Right. Well, we're both firm believers that storage is the key piece of the entire computer.
It's the most difficult.
always has
It has always been the most difficult part.
Okay, great. I want to just ask a couple more questions to kind of wrap up on the Tandon Magnetics story. And one is, you now have sold you've now sold your hard drive business to Western Digital. They've asked you to continue to build heads for them. You're doing that in India.
Yes.
How long did you do that, and what level of heads did you build over that period of time, and how far did you get into the technology?
We actually start building heads for them. Of course, we were, the family was building heads.
Yeah, you're already building heads when you sold it to them. So you
right,
just continued
right.
that, right?
From 87 to almost until 2002.
Okay.
Or beyond even. could be 2004.
All right, but so well in there. And I understand you got all the way up to MR
GMR,
heads?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you got the GMR
You know,
heads.
yeah, but you got to understand, we started making, you know, it was only head assembly and stacks, okay? Because of course that takes a lot of clean room discipline and all this thing. We started with the MIG heads, you know, which are ferrite heads.
Right.
You know, we from there we went, you know, winding the coils and all that, and then we went to the GMR head, which we got the heads.
Oh, you went to the thin film heads next, right?
We skipped thin film.
Oh, you skipped the standard thin
because you know we had our own design, which were called MIG heads.
Yep.
We were pretty much thin film didn't last very long. You know that.
Well, it actually did in a certain form, but yeah, because he kept changing the elements. But bottom line,
yeah,
film heads have been around for a long time.
Yeah, no, they've been for a long time. But I'm saying that the 3.5, 4. I mean, this 3.5 inch. It didn't. It was a short period.
Okay.
You know. So that's so we were doing some motors for them. I don't know how long we did the motors. You know. But then. They bought Read Write, and they pulled everything in, you know.
When they bought Read Write, then did your head business go away with them, or did Read Write take it over?
They
did they consolidate with Read Write?
They consolidated, you know,
right.
most of it. We did it for a little bit, you know, but not for long.
So bottom line is, when they bought Read Write, that was the beginning of the end of you building heads for them, because they wanted to consolidate.
Well, we were actually, it was getting to the point the value adders wasn't there, because you know, if you see on the MIG heads there were a lot of more value add, because there was a lot of coil and termination and winding the coils and all this thing.
Right.
This becomes too simple a process to make any money at it, you know. So we really wanted to get out of it. Okay, we just wanted to finish it off and get out of it. You know.
And same thing happened with the motors. Did they then start buying the motors from the motor companies?
Motors we left long time back. Yeah, motors we didn't do that much. You know, in fact, one of the things at Tandon we developed some of the big NIDAC we were the first customer for NIDAC.
You were the first customer for them. They basically owned the
yeah, we were the first customer.
What's left of it?
Yeah, yeah.
Huh. All right. So how long did you stay in the PC business then?
Well, you know, PC business we started in '86, maybe '85.
Okay.
Okay, and could be even as early as '84. But anyway, so what I did with that's what one thing that I said. You know, I need a lot of management and a lot of big guns. You know. So it was in the Wall Street article. I was compared with the Yankee owner Steinbrenner.
You're being discussed in the same terms as Steinbrenner?
Yes, I'll send you
boss, right?
I'll send you the no, because what I did, I went and bought the all top IBM management to do my PC.
Okay.
You know, I mean, we had the basic done. You know, design was done, but you know how to get into the other things. You know, marketing and general manager Dan Wilkie, Joe Cerubi, all the big names, and Don Kummer, who was there, who invented the first graphic board, VGA board. So I had one of the best engineering team in the PC business. You know, in fact, you remember those companies, Chip and Technology, who used to.
Yes. Yes.
And I ran into I forgot the guy's name. I ran into those people. He said, Tandon never bought it from us. You know, we did our own chips. 100% chipset was done our own. Okay, and not only that, we did our own power supplies. Drives, of course, you know, we had gotten out of, we started making our own drives. So we were very vertically integrated, you know, PC company. We did.
So where would you rank in the PC suppliers at the time? Would you be in the top half?
We were in Europe. We were either number 2 or number 3.
In Europe.
In Europe, 4 countries. We were very big because that's where most of the market is. France, Germany. We were number 1 in Spain, and England.
Okay.
And we were, you know, we were number one when 486 came, because we had the chipset of 486 before anybody else had, because we developed our own. You know, so.
Now, did you label that as a Tandon computer, or did you
Yes,
private label
you
for
go
other
to
people?
Europe, people still remember Tandon computers.
So it's Tandon computers.
Yeah,
Okay.
we were very big. I mean, you could see our signs on the freeways and stuff like that. Almost a household name. Then, of course, the next question is what happened. You know, we took that company from ground zero with no money raised, okay, to $600 million.
And the 600 million now you're talking about as a PC
As
company?
PC company.
PC company.
Just PC company
Okay.
alone. In
Wow.
fact, maybe my number may be a little off, but something in the $500 million range. Okay, and in '91, we had more profits and sold more PC than Dell Computer did.
You actually outsold Dell
In '91.
in 91?
1991.
That's remarkable. Wow. Wow.
Of course, you know.
Now, the company itself, though, eventually went bankrupt, right?
Well,
and that was 93, I believe, right?
94, I think.
94,
Yeah.
okay.
Well, let me tell you what there are two things happened at the same time. Okay. You remember we had the Iraq War
Yes,
during
yes.
Okay.
Right.
Now, people remember, of course, the second Iraq War, which was devastated the whole
Right,
thing.
right.
But people have very nice memories about the first Iraq War.
Yeah.
But I don't think very few people don't know is that those kind of things always have effect on the business. Okay. During the war, okay, dollar became very weak. You know, I just remember one number. You know, we were a pound. It was 1.9 something to a dollar. You know,
Okay.
to a pound, 1.8, 1.9. Because during the war it became weak. Okay. Now, one of the biggest problem doing business in Europe for everybody in the PC business particularly, you buy everything in dollars, right? You don't buy in euros. You don't even the Intel processor. You didn't buy in euro. You buy in, well, we didn't even have euros at that time. We had francs and
Right, right.
Local currencies. But you sell in the local currency because we are in the retail business. We are not,
So you're buying in dollars and you're selling in their local currency.
we are buying material in that thing and all that.
Right.
So the currency fluctuation is a big deal.
Right.
And if your entire business is in foreign currency, you can't hedge it. How do you hedge that? So after we won the war,
Which I believe was like 92 or thereabouts, right? I think the war was 91, wasn't it?
huh?
I think the war was in 91, right? 1991?
Yeah. So
It didn't last very long, like 6 months or something like that.
yeah, 91, 92, I don't remember the time, just about that time. So dollar, when the dollar was getting weak, our cost went way down and our selling price was higher because we get more dollars for every pound, okay? But of course, it's not happening to us, it's happening to IBM, it's happening to Compaq, it's happening to everybody, okay? And they have a tendency to, margins are too big, let's lower the price a little bit. But they don't know, or we don't know, that once you lower the price, you never bring the price back up,
Right.
okay? So we didn't lower that much price, but we had to make some adjustments. But we said we are fine. When the war got over, dollar became the strongest currency. 25–30% dollar became stronger. Guess what? Our receivables got reduced by 30%. Just currency, okay? And our 30% gross margin on those prices went to 5%.
Wow.
Until that time, we were wildly successful. I mean, they said that we are the company to beat, okay? Now, the mistake which, if you ask me what mistake we made, when we had 1991 such a banner year, which we were just, that's the time when Dell went raise $100 million, we could have done that. Maybe still the mentality of a small family business never got out of my head or something like that. We didn't raise money. And if you don't have war chest in a time like that, I mean, you just think about that way, over 1 month period, you lose 30% of your receivable, which is,
right.
That's maybe $50 million. And then you don't have a war chest because you're profitable, you said you don't need money. Oh, excuse me. I didn't know that.
No problem. All right. So bottom line is that the war and the successive flip of the dollar basically got you guys in trouble.
By the way, go and look at the record. Didn't kill us only. Commodore.
Well, Commodore was also in that time frame. Okay.
Exactly the same time.
Wow.
Same thing happened to them. Because they had, at that time they didn't have much U.S. market. They were big in Europe. Big in Europe. The painful part is we were very profitable. We had the most fantastic products. I mean, our computer products were really amazing, okay?
Well, did you end up selling any of those assets then or not?
There was no assets. What assets a computer company has?
Well, you got the design, you got the product. Nobody wanted to buy the product from you?
No, because the design is IBM compatible. I mean, they're not, there's no, we have some intellectual property, I tell you the things which we did first. First of all, we did our own chipset. Everybody else got the chipset from outside, okay? We did our own power supply. Everybody got, we had our own BIOS. By the way, my team left and started Ward BIOS, Phoenix and those things, they were my people.
Is that right?
Yeah, they were my people. So we had a tremendous technology on the PC side. By the way, we were the first people who started putting write cache into the shadowing in cache. We were so far ahead, Tom, it's not even funny. But again,
well, it seems like those kind of things would have been something that you could have sold as assets.
Well, we had a lot of patterns. You remember we hung it in chapter 11 almost for more than a year. That doesn't help. So.
So you're chapter 7 for 1 year?
Eventually.
Yeah. Okay.
Which was a mistake. By the way, board made a wrong decision. I didn't want to do it. And at the end of the day, you finally get tired too. That how many people are going to fight.
Right.
And some of the mean creditors, we still had a good chance of. But consolidations happen in this business. I mean, look at you're talking about us. We weren't that big. Look at AST. Look at Tandy. Look at Commodore. I mean, these casualties are going to happen in this business.
Right.
But we had a product called Data Pack with a removable whole drive.
That was the one you did with K-Lock, right?
Huh?
Is that the one you did with K-Lock?
No. You're talking about JTS. No, this is the Data Pack.
Oh, that was JTS later.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, we won so many European awards, and that was the biggest selling computer in Europe one time. In fact, you should have this in the museum because the whole drive removed. You could carry it with you.
And you call that JPack?
Data Pack.
Data Pack. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We should probably take a look at that. Okay, well, let's move on. So, Tandon Magnetics now is basically gone. And
well, Tandon Magnetic name was changed long time ago. It became
Tandon Corporation at that point.
That's the one.
Right.
Yes,
so
94.
So in 96, you now founded this company called JT Storage with Tom Mitchell. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, we didn't really found that company. There was a company called K-Log.
Oh, so that's K-Log. Okay.
Yeah. There was and Steve.
I know both the founders. I can't think of it.
David Pierce. You know David Pierce? He was the Memorex CFO.
Yes, yeah.
David Pierce and these people, they had this company where they had a good concept. They wanted to make a 3-inch drive. Of course, 3-inch became standard later on.
Right.
Not 2.5-inch. They wanted to do a 3-inch drive. And I like the concept, because I said it has more surface. Optimum size is really 3-inch, not 2.5-inch, And so I put in a little bit of money, because of my reputation, I was able to raise, significant amount of money after that. And but a company was here. I was not interested in running it ever. Fortunately, at that time, Tom Mitchell was available, and he came over just after I put the money. He came over and he took over the company, and I stayed with it.
So how long did that company last?
It lasted about 4 years.
4 years, okay.
We did well, actually, not bad at all. Compaq put in some money, Western Digital put in some money.
Right.
They all got their money back. What we did, we acquired Atari. Okay, the reason we acquired Atari because they had cash. But when we got trapped in this thing, they have a lot of debt too, But at that time we needed the money, so we acquired it for $60, $70 million worth of cash. We did a reverse split. We went public, so we were doing good, And then another casualty wave came. That's the time when Connor got nervous. He sold it to Seagate.
Yep.
Quantum went out. Micropolis declared bankruptcy. That was bloodiest thing that happened in the industry. I don't know you remember that or not.
Oh, yeah.
96, 97 time frame.
Right.
It was blood all over.
Yeah, it was. No, that was a major consolidation time, no doubt about it.
Yeah, and that's the time I think it didn't survive.
Went down from about 30 distributed companies down to about 6, and then eventually down to 3. So
yeah,
that all happened in that time frame.
Yeah. So every time bunch of them go away, and so it was okay.
Okay, now we were talking a little bit I was talking to your brother a little bit about the company that you call Celatronics.
Yeah, so
that was a consolidation of other things.
Yeah, by the way, while I was doing JTS,
okay,
I was not, like I said, I was full time in JTS. It was Mitchell was doing that. We were still doing heads, and we were doing some, here and there some RFID stuff, and a few things were doing. All of a sudden, in fact, Tom Mitchell, when he went and he started his own company, I don't know you know that or not, very successful.
Yeah, he's got a company, I think, in Thailand or something.
In Thailand, yes.
Right.
FiberNet.
Right. We're planning on interviewing him, by the way. We're trying to get him over here to get him interviewed.
Yeah.
We're working on it.
So about the same time, I looked at, our family kind of a thing, and we thought we have this little operations and doing it. EMS was becoming pretty popular. Okay, that was really a new way of doing things, and there was some concern about China. Every few years, people get concerned about China. These days, they are again
concerned about China.
That's what I'm saying.
For good reason.
Well, but they never leave China either. If China shut down today, Apple will go out of business.
Right.
Okay. So we thought it will be a good idea because we are the most experienced manufacturing people in India because we've been doing it for the last 40 years. Electronics manufacturing, there are other kind of manufacturing. So what we did, we consolidated everything, went and raised a bunch of money from my old people I knew, like Dick Kramlich and Flextronics.
Yeah.
Even though I'm competing with them, they put in money. I said, someday you have a chance to merge with us because you have no presence in India. So we had a pretty good run at it. We built a company within 4 years to $450, $500 million. We were supplying to Apple, power supplies. But the big thing we were doing is making set-top boxes for
cable TV?
EchoStar. No, EchoStar.
Okay.
Satellite.
Oh, for satellites. Okay.
Yeah, satellite. And how that happened, my entire engineering team at Tandon went and joined EchoStar to do all their engineering. In fact, EchoStar was basically started with those guys. So their chief engineer, their EchoStar CEO, they all worked for me. So I said, hey, listen, we want to take you to India. So we got the business and we started doing it. So we were doing pretty good. You know, there's no problem with that. Okay. But I found out that EMS business is a very tough business. I mean, it's margins are like grocery business, you know. And if you look at, I looked at Flextronics, I look at Jabil, SCM. These guys work on 2 or 3% margin, and their market values are, you know, 1/10 of their revenue.
1/10.
Yeah, you look at any one of them.
Wow.
You know, they'll do, if they do $40 billion, they're $4 billion market value, and they make money for 6 quarters and then they lose. You know, if you can keep the company small enough, you can control enough and do it. But when you start getting that big, your big contracts, and OEMs don't want you to make money. I mean, you go make things for Cisco, they let you make money whatever you can squeeze out of the material. You know, that's about it.
Right.
Unless you are Foxconn or somebody like that who has a little club. You know, where are you going to go if you don't buy it from me? And they are very vertically integrated. You know, they make their own materials. I mean, these guys, I won't be surprised if they don't own mines one of these days. You know, so we found it that you know, it's a good idea to make some money for the investors, and fortunately, we weren't even looking for a buyer. They came along and they said, you know, we'd like to buy you out.
So Jabil bought it.
Jabil bought it, and we made money. I
Okay.
mean, we didn't lose money. So it came out okay.
And when was that? When did Jabil buy that?
2006.
2006. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So at that point, most of the remnants of the businesses that you started from the time you started building floppy heads all up through PCs, and the family was building things in India, Singapore,
Okay.
are now basically gone, right? But your
No.
families continue to do more
yeah,
work,
yeah,
right?
yeah. Well, one thing, we had a business within Celltronics, memory business, DRAM business.
Oh, the memory business. Okay, so that
Okay.
was part of Celltronics also?
That was part of Celltronics.
Okay, all right.
Very interesting what we were doing there. You know, we had developed a technology where we can repair DRAM.
You can repair DRAM. You talking about bad cells you somehow
Yeah.
restore?
Yeah. No.
Or you
This
patch
is-
around it or something?
Which is, we don't do that now. We were doing it that time. That's how we got into it. Okay.
Okay.
Let's say if one chip has, you know, 3 bits bad and one has 2 bits bad, we did the patching. We take 2 chips, made one good one.
All
out
right,
of it.
all right. So you made
So we
one
basically
good
bought
chip out of 2 flawed chips.
Yeah. So basically, you don't need to do that in a flash, because flash you downgrade it. You cannot downgrade the, you know, DRAM.
Right.
So and also we take good parts and we made modules for gaming people and all this thing. So we and that business Jabil didn't want it, because they said we don't want to get into the retail business, you know, because when you are in the OEM business, you don't want to get into the retail business, you know.
Okay. So that was a piece of Celltronics that they didn't want.
That's a
Celltronics
piece they didn't want. So we kept in the family. but then we split it also. You know, both my brothers independently are doing that business. You know, and some other things they are doing together. Very good relationship with Micron for many years. So that business is.
Is that still going on?
That's still going on. Yes.
So that's still ongoing business.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Can you tell us about your son's business? Your son's got a business going too, right?
Well, that's the most promising
Well,
business. Yeah. In fact, I feel good about it that he's going to do a lot better than I ever did. For a father, it's a good thing, right?
Well.
No, he actually he started a company called Zavient.
Okay.
Okay, and you know, when we were making set-top boxes for EchoStar, we needed some software work. Okay, and my son said, he put a couple of engineers together. He said, you know, I can help you guys. So once he started doing that, of course, you know, we sold the company to Jabil and all this thing. He stayed on that thing, and he built himself a very big business. You know, his customers are like Comcast, EchoStar, Charter Communications.
So he's got some really big customers. And this is a software services company. Right?
He doesn't have a customer which is market value less than $50 billion.
Wow.
Because so it's doing well, you know.
Well, I guess the chip off the old block going there.
Well, something we must have done right.
Well, I think he probably learned a little bit from his dad.
Yeah.
So, any other ventures of the family or you that you'd like to talk about?
You know, I have done. You know, I'm not directly involved in anything. Directly means I don't want to be responsible for the payroll.
Right.
But I help my brothers, you know, on this business whenever they need me.
Right.
I sit on the board of my son's company, and I advise him and help him whenever he needs it. And I have been making several investments. Some of them have done well.
Right. One of them, of course, I know quite well, which is Modus.
Modus, I think Modus is going to do well.
Yeah, I think they're going to do well too.
Yeah. Of course, when they came to me, I knew this is the right thing to do, because hybrid is the way to go, and they just have a very eloquent way of making a hybrid. I don't know how much you learned about that company.
Well, I knew quite a bit about it early on. I haven't stayed very close to it lately. But
yeah,
when
I think
got started,
I think we'll do well over there. So I talk to them pretty much every day, and we share notes and advise them whatever I can do.
Good.
You know, we are basically three partners in it. You know, Andy Mills, Marshall, and my son.
Well, your son's involved in that one too, huh? Okay.
He's not involved. I'm involved on his behalf.
Okay, got
because
it. Okay.
Because I don't want to. I was that keen on making any investments or anything. And then we have some other things. By the way, but we are starting another fund, me and my son, and we will be looking at some opportunity where we can, you know, kind of get companies started. You know,
what kind of things are you going to be looking for? Are you going to be looking for new technologies,
new technologies? I mean, I like to see things in storage, but you know, because I understand that even today, even though it's changed so much.
Right.
But in any other space, I think we are very actively start looking at it now. You know.
All right. Good.
So if you come across something which is interesting,
I think I may have a couple ideas for you. We'll talk about that later.
yeah, because I think it keeps you young, it keeps you moving. You know.
So you're not going to slow down. You're not going to stop.
Well, you know, one of these days I'm going to decide what I want to be when I grow up.
Well, I got the same plan, by the way, and I think we're about the same age. Neither one of us has figured it out yet.
I'm trying to figure out what.
Going.
I got to figure out what to do. No, actually, you know, at this time, I'm sure you're the same way. It's not that much pressure because you're not trying to make a living or anything.
Right.
You're just having fun.
No, that's true. That's true. That's true. So, any other favorite stories about people that you knew, or an incident that happened in some of the business you're in that you like the the 5 people in the company and you put a bunch of Hollywood actors in there to flesh out, make it look a little bigger. You got other interesting stories you want to talk about?
Well, you know, there are a lot of stories, of course, you know, sometimes they come to your mind and all this, but during this period, how many interesting people you meet it is unbelievable, you know. I mean, lot of characters. One name stands out as Jack Tramiel. I don't know, you
Tell
know.
me about Jack.
What a character. I mean, you know, they don't come any tougher than that, and they don't come any meaner than that, but at heart, very good man, you know. I dealt with him a lot.
Yeah, I don't know him. Tell me a little bit about him.
You know, he was a you know, Holocaust survivor. You probably know that.
Okay.
Okay, and self-made man. I mean, he ran before Atari. He was really started Commodore.
Oh, he started Commodore also?
Yeah,
Okay.
with this other guy. Then he had a fight with him. So he sold about 100. He got out of Commodore at the right time. Got about $100 million to himself.
Yeah.
Then he started Atari, and we dealt with him off and on at Commodore and this thing. One of the toughest guy. I mean, you know.
Was he competition to you, or were you actually almost?
We were never competition. I was always. He became a partner with me in JTS because, you know,
he was in JTS. Okay.
Yeah, because he got the Atari.
Yeah. All right.
Okay.
Right. Okay. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And of course, you know, it is always a nice feeling when you think about that. You know, all the early people in the PC industry. You know, I mean, Steve Jobs, Markula,
Right.
Woz, you know, we knew all those people. We were almost together, and Microsoft, and then guys like Mitch Kapoor, who did the, you know, Lotus 1-2-3, all those wonderful memories, you know.
Right.
Yeah, great people. And Finest Connor, he was a very good friend. In fact, we used to.
By the way, you can help us a little bit there, because I've been trying to get Finest to give us oral history now for about 4 or 5 years, and so far he's been hiding. So I think this is a good experience.
I think you'll enjoy that.
Push.
Yeah, I'll talk to him. I haven't spoken to him for a while. Yeah,
Well, actually,
you know, his son passed away.
no, is
Yeah.
that right?
Yeah,
Recently?
no, he'll be good.
Okay.
You need to.
Oh,
you
he's
need
definitely somebody we like to get.
Yeah, we used to play golf together while we were competing on in the market. But as friends, we used to play golf together. And we used to say, as long as we don't talk about prices, we are fine.
Wow. So if you look back, who would you say were your biggest influences, or a few people that really stand out, the people that influenced you, that you either try to emulate or you learn something from them or follow their example or whatever?
You know, I mean, there's no question about it. If you look at my childhood, or even until the late stage, my father was a very big influence on me.
Your dad,
you know?
okay.
I mean, he was I know everybody thinks very highly of their dads. Most people I know of. But I thought my dad was a very exceptional human being, you know.
Did he live to see a lot of your successes?
Yes, he did.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know whether I can tell you a story, which is I think it's I like that story anyway. Okay. In 1970. 73, 72 or 73, I could be wrong. You know, I was working as an engineer at Pertec.
Right.
And my salary was making $1,200 a month. You know, that was good money in those days.
Oh yeah.
Of course, I was going to get a big bonus at the end of this, but at that time, that's all I was making. And somehow I saved some money and all this thing, and sent a ticket to my parents that come and visit me, you know. And I had a old beaten up Chevrolet, and I had the second car was a little Datsun. And my dad is very, very fond of cars. I mean, he loves cars, because he comes from Patiala, which is a city in India, where they're king of Patiala. He used to be known as king of Rolls Royces. Rolls Royce used to send mechanics over there. He has maybe 200 Rolls Royces. So my dad grew up there, and he was very fond of cars. So when he came here, I said, Dad, I need to change my car.
Was that his first time to come to the United States?
First time ever.
First time ever? Okay.
Ever, yeah.
This is like 72 or 73.
Yeah. It was very difficult to afford to come, I mean, I was able to save some money and send him there. So both of them came. So I wanted to change my car. I want to get rid of my Chevrolet and get another, because getting too old. It was 65 or 66. So we went to, of course, I always bought used cars in those days, So we went to buy a Buick Skylark, which was an older car.
A used Buick, okay.
Which is over 2 years old. So we are looking at the car. My dad sort of drifts away, because the next door there was a Rolls Royce dealer. So he's standing there. He's standing there and looking at the car, and he said, "Why don't you buy this one?" He's kind of kidding me. It's almost something hit me. And this is a true story. I told him, I said, "Dad," at that time he had no idea that he's ever going to come back to this country, where the money is going to come, how he's going to come. I said, "If I buy this one, will he come back again?" He said, "Absolutely." Anyway, making the story short, they spent 2-3 weeks with us, went back to India. From there, just after that, I started my company, and company was doing very well, and I was just dying to. We were close to going public. We were talking about going public, but we didn't go public. Sandy Robertson has been calling me that I want to invest in your company. I called Sandy. I said, "Sandy, I'll sell you $500,000 worth of my stock. I need the money." Sandy got into, from my stock, I sold him $500,000 worth of stock. Okay, and Sandy made a lot of money out of that, because when we went public, I think, right. So I took that, I got that $500,000. I went to the Rolls Royce dealer, wrote a check for $130,000, brand new Rolls Royce. Called my travel agent, got 2 first-class tickets, sent it for my dad and mom, so that they come in first class before they came in coach. They landed. He didn't know. I picked them up in the brand new Rolls Royce. I said, and that's a true story.
I wish I had a video of that one. What did he say?
Oh, he was very proud of it. Of course he had to. Then since that time, he came every year.
He did.
He came every year, because I had money at that time. Send him all. They always came in first class, and I bought a car.
You bought a car every year?
I bought a car every year when he was here.
Wow.
So I ended up with 15 cars. Because he likes cars.
Wow. Oh, that's a great story. I love that. I love that. So, what are your proudest moments in your career? You look back, what were you most proud of in your entire career?
We always talk about money, and all this thing.
Yeah, right.
That's fine. But I think maybe a lot of people don't know, but I think I feel that I had a big impact on what is happening today in the computer industry.
Absolutely.
And at least I feel that way. And what I am also as proud, or even more proud so, lot of people, when they see success from one night, you're struggling for your life financially. Next night, next day, or 2 months later, you're on the Forbes 400 richest people. Throws a lot of families off, does a lot of damage. I kept my family all together. Was very worried what kind of kids I'm going to raise because when they see this much wealth, all of a sudden their mind goes crazy. You know, I mean, you'll see always the people who are self-made, who have money, either their kids are totally useless or very successful.
Well,
there's no in between.
That's true.
So,
by the way, how many kids do you have?
3.
And you've talked about the one son. How about the other 2 kids?
My one daughter is an attorney.
Okay, you got your lawyer.
Okay, we got our lawyer, and her husband is a money manager.
Okay.
And my other daughter is a MBA from UCLA. She was a hedge fund manager, but then she wanted to stay with the kids. So she's not working right now, and her husband is a hedge fund manager.
Okay.
So they're all doing good. But when I talk about my family, I don't talk about my immediate family alone. I talk about my brothers. I talk about my sisters.
Right.
I think I started a wave. You know, we are working class people. Okay, until I got into this thing, everybody was either engineer working for somebody or a doctor or all this thing. From a profession, we have become a reasonably big business family. My younger brother, you know, Jay, he's running a business here. You know, my son is running a business. My nephews and nieces, they're all in business. Some in memory business, some in the head business, some in one of the things. And my brother is running a pretty good empire in India. His sons are all USC graduates. So life has been good.
Well, I would say that's a remarkable story. It's just remarkable. So, did you ever doubt yourself in any of this? Did you ever feel like you're doing the wrong thing, or you don't know what to do?
I frankly never thought about it. I don't know whether everything came out wildly more than I expected. You know, when I first started the head business, you know, my wife had come from India. She was still homesick. She wanted to go back to India. I said, my goal was, if I can make about $200,000, that'll be enough for us to retire in India. You know, I passed that.
Yeah. Well, good for you. That's fantastic. What other interests do you have, by the way? Do you play golf, or?
I have a lot of interests. I play a lot of golf. Whole winter I'm skiing.
So you're a skier? Still an active skier?
Huh?
Still an active skier?
Oh, I'm still doing double blacks.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah, I'm very much into yoga, you know.
Okay.
But the problem is I'm very much into eating also.
We all have that problem.
So I have, and I go every year. I go fishing in Alaska, catch some salmon. I travel a lot to Europe and all these things. So I'm pretty busy actually.
Good. All right.
You know,
so
I'm
you're
pretty
doing
busy.
a lot of things. All right, great.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about the future. What's your vision for where we're going? Where do you see computing and storage in particular going?
Well, I think we all know that we are going to be needing more and more and more storage. I mean, the storage is going to continue to demand in a much larger quantities than we have it now, because everything is based on the storage. And I know a lot of people think that the disk drives are going to take the backstage of this thing. I don't think so, you know, because the disk drives, still the price curve, they are so far ahead. And you don't need flash drives all over the place. You know, that's why I invested in Motus. My belief is that for a long time the solution is going to be hybrid, some sort of a hybrid. You know, more and more flash heavy than the hard drive, but for the archives and all this thing, we can't even kill tapes. Forget about killing.
I agree with you 100% on that.
You know,
I always have.
so I think there's a long ways to go, but there are going to be two kind of companies who are participating in that. You know, I won't get into the flash drive business unless I own flash, because there is nothing else in it. There's no other value add.
Right.
So the flash companies are going to do well.
Oh, they're going to be totally vertically integrated, no doubt.
Yeah, they are totally. Yeah, they already are, and there are two hard drive companies, and they are going to continue to do well, because now the pressure of the competition is gone. They are not going to, we were killing each other.
Yeah, well, there is still a third, of course, with Toshiba, but they're half the size of the other two.
Yeah, but that's not going to be. There's plenty of business, See, our problem was we had only one market, which was the PC. Okay, if you didn't get Dell, you're dead. If you didn't get Compaq, you're dead.
Right.
You have to. Everyone has to have every one of them, and that's when those people drove prices. I mean, you're sitting in front of the Dell. This is what I'm talking about, JTS. The guy said, "I'm going to pay you $50." Okay, he said, "No, my price is $54." Okay, Seagate will match that 50. You're screwed.
Right. Well, been there, done that too.
Huh?
I've been there and done that. So, what do you think the key challenges are for the computing world and technology in general? What do you think the real big challenges are?
Storage, we know. Okay, I think. I mean, I could be wrong here. Okay. I think we are squeezing so much out from the old technology. I really don't see any phenomenal technology coming up. At least I'm not aware of it. Okay. Because PC was a revolution, right? This all is happening is really came out of there, right?
Right.
Which was something totally different concept. So I don't know. We may hit a period where nothing much coming out.
Well, there certainly are some things that are going to be incremental and evolutionary in storage and storage technology, but you've also got new things like artificial intelligence that are going to change.
Well, but I'm saying that artificial intelligence has been there, but in order to adapt, you always hit a little bit of a, kind of a thing. So far, most of our growth has been squeezing out of the old technology.
Oh, no doubt about that.
Yeah.
All right, well, I got one last question for you. Any advice you give a young person starting out?
It's hard to give the advice to young person because young people are doing very well. Okay, but on the other hand, not every young person is doing.
Right.
When young kids do well, some of the other young kids get in trouble.
Yeah.
Because the idea of making a quick buck is spreading so rapidly among youngsters. Not everybody is capable of doing that.
Well, that's true. And
it's just the same way that every kid is not going to be a professional golfer, or every kid is not going to be a basketball player. And but everybody wants to be that way. And if you take that route, sometimes you can ruin yourself because you didn't get that. So this entrepreneurship is a very. You don't want to say, I want to be an entrepreneur. Say, why? I want to make a lot of money. That doesn't work.
Right.
Okay. So for my advice to the people is, forget about making the quick dollars. If you have a fantastic idea, now you don't want to make something or do something just because you can do it. No company fails because they could not do what they said they're going to do. They fail because nobody wants that product, right? Right. That's where people go wrong.
Yeah.
I have never seen a company fail because technically they couldn't do it, but they couldn't sell.
Yeah, there's a lot
so
of
my advice is that that .com has ruined a lot of people. We always see how many people made it, but we never see how many people got ruined.
That's a very high percentage. Any other last thoughts?
Well, I'm going to continue to do what I've been doing.
I can believe that.
And unfortunately, I don't know much else to do. So if anybody has any ideas and looking for, money, we can always look at that.
Wow.